Welcome to novelsaudio.com. We hope you have a relaxing and enjoyable time.
Chapter 41, Rejection. The House of Cards begins to tremble. Isla's carefully crafted deception hits a wall of ice-cold professionalism from Dr. South, leaving her scrambling to maintain a lie that is already crumbling at the edges. Meanwhile, Jake, blinded by his own ambitions and his desperate need to win his father's approval, doubles down on his betrayal of Keira, using corporate sabotage as a weapon of petty revenge. But Keira, unfazed and unshaken, simply pulls out a trump card nobody saw coming. What happened? The chapter opens with a chilling look inside Isla's psyche. She's not some bumbling assistant. She's a calculated player who has studied Mrs. Olsen's email habits like a researcher obsessing over a subject. She knows Dr. South's patterns, the instant replies, the deference to the Olsen matriarch. It's this intimate knowledge that gave her the audacity to claim Dr. South had accepted the Horton group's invitation. But when she opens his actual reply, the warmth of her world drops several degrees. Dr. South's response is clinical, almost dismissive. He is responsible for the Olsen family, not the Horton group. The smile on Isla's face freezes. Jake, ever the anxious client, asks what's wrong, and she lies again, smooth as silk, buying herself a few days. Her confidence is a blade, but now it's chipping. We then shift to Jake, who returns home to a rare moment of paternal warmth. Oliver pats his shoulder, calls him my amazing son, and promises to help him gain power in the company. For a man starved of his father's approval, this is oxygen. Melissa, Jake's mother, is practically weeping with relief, pointing out that even old Mrs. Horton, who detests Isla, has to admit the girl did well this time. Jake clenches his fists, convinced that proposing to Isla and securing Dr. South as a bargaining chip was his correct first step. He tells himself he has no regrets, but the author lets us see the lie. As for Keira, she had to be his. Meanwhile, at the Olsen estate, we get a quiet, almost tender reprieve. Keira is working, sneezing, and reaching for water that isn't there. Without a word, Lewis refills her glass. It's a small gesture, but it speaks volumes. Old Mrs. Horton watches them with a grandmother's glee, already pulling out name dictionaries and the book of songs asterisk, dreaming of a great-grandchild. The Shiba Inu, kitten, abandons the old lady to sleep at Lewis's feet. The contrast between the warm, silent connection in that room and the cold, manipulative scheming of Jake and Isla is stark. The next day, Keira rides with Lewis without awkwardness now, and Tom, the driver, senses something shifting in the air. At the R&D department, Jake intercepts her with a networking event invitation, dangling the possibility of Dr. South attending as bait. She brushes him off. Jalen, the core member of the R&D team, mocks Jake's arrogance, but Jake retaliates by using his deputy manager authority to strike Jalen's name from the invitation list. At the cocktail party, Jake gloats, telling Keira that without his approval, she can't even get through the door. But Keira, calm as still water, pulls out her phone and shows the staff member an invitation from Samuel himself. Key moments, Isla opens Dr. South's reply and discovers the lie she told Jake is. Exposed, Dr. South has no intention of helping the Horton group. Jake returns home to praise from his father and tears from his mother, solidifying his decision to marry Isla and betray Keira. Old Mrs. Horton, watching Lewis fetch Keira water, starts researching baby names, hinting at her hopes for the couple's future. Jake uses his authority to remove Jalen from the party invitation list, a petty move designed to isolate Keira and prove his control. Keira bypasses Jake's blockade by presenting an invitation from Samuel, showing she has connections far beyond his reach. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing how pride and desperation warp people. Isla is particularly fascinating. She's not just a jealous rival. She's a woman who has been studying the terrain for years. She knows emails, patterns, and power dynamics, but the moment Dr. South's reply arrives, her footing crumbles. She's a liar forced to keep lying, and the cracks are beginning to show. When Jake asks what's wrong, she hesitates for just a breath before smoothing it over. That hesitation is everything. It tells us she's not as in control as she pretends to be. Her confidence is a performance, and the audience is getting restless. Jake, on the other hand, is a tragic figure in the making. He has traded genuine connection for a transactional relationship with Isla, all to secure his father's fleeting approval. His mother's tears are supposed to be a validation, but they feel more like a burden. He tells himself he has no regrets, but the narrative doesn't let him off the hook. The line, "As for Keira, she had to be his," is possessive, not loving. He sees her as a prize to be won, not a person to be cherished. His sabotage of Jalen's invitation is petty and small, revealing that his ego is as fragile as his father's praise is conditional. Keira, in contrast, is unshakable. She doesn't even dignify Jake's trap with anger. When he tells her she can't get through the door, she simply shows him she has other doors. Her resilience is quiet, almost unnerving. She's not playing his game, she's playing her own. And Lewis, though he appears only briefly, is a steady presence. His silent gesture of refilling her water speaks louder than any declaration of love. He's injured, enduring burns without complaint, yet still attentive to her needs. There's a depth to him that the chapter hints at but doesn't fully reveal, and that restraint makes him all the more intriguing. My thoughts, what struck me most about this chapter is the pacing. The author knows exactly when to accelerate tension and when to let the reader breathe. The opening with Isla is tense, almost claustrophobic. We're inside her head, feeling the panic she tries to hide. Then we cut to the Olsen household, where everything slows down. We watch a grandmother happily flipping through baby name books. We see a dog curl up at a man's feet. It's domestic, almost cozy, and it's a brilliant emotional reset before the chapter plunges us back into the corporate drama. The emotional resonance here is layered. On the surface, it's a story about power struggles and romantic triangles. But underneath, it's about the characters' relationships with themselves. Jake is desperate for approval because he has none from within. Isla is constructing a reality because she's afraid of her own inadequacy. Keira, by contrast, doesn't need validation from anyone. She works, she sneezes, she drinks water, and she moves forward. That simplicity is her strength. The writing itself is sharp, with dialogue that feels natural and exposition that never drags. I loved the small details, the Shiba Inu named Kitten, the image of Lewis in his black suit hiding burns under fabric, the way Keira's sneeze interrupts the tension. These are the moments that make a novel feel lived in, not just plotted. Rating *******4. 8.5 What happens next? Isla's lie is a ticking time bomb. Jake believes Dr. South is on his side, but the clock is running out. When the truth comes out, and it will, the fallout will be catastrophic for both Jake and Isla. Meanwhile, Keira's invitation from Samuel hints that she has her own network, her own resources, and possibly her own plans. Could Samuel be Dr. South, or is he another powerful figure in this world? And Lewis, will his injuries force him to reveal more about himself, or will he continue to carry his burdens in silence? Old Mrs. Horton's baby name research feels like foreshadowing, but with this cast of characters, nothing is ever that simple. Final verdict: this chapter is a turning point, skillfully balancing simmering tension with quiet character moments. Isla's deception, Jake's hubris, and Keira's quiet competence create a triangle of dramatic tension that promises explosive consequences. The writing is confident, the pacing is impeccable, and the emotional depth is surprisingly affecting. It's a chapter that rewards close reading and leaves you hungry for more. Chapter 42. Humiliation. The power of being seen when the most influential man in the room walks right past the people desperate for his attention to reach someone they've dismissed. The universe has a way of correcting itself. What happened? This chapter delivers a masterclass in social dynamics, where status and reputation clash in a high-stakes corporate gathering. It opens with Keira casually presenting an invitation that leaves both the staff member and Jake Horton visibly stunned. The invitation bears no company affiliation, simply reading Keira Olsen, a detail that immediately signals something unusual is at play. Jake, unable to process that Keira might have legitimate access, immediately assumes she stole someone else's invitation, revealing both his prejudice and his insecurity. Jalen, who had been mentally preparing himself for an awkward evening where he'd be unable to bring Keira inside, finds himself caught off guard by this unexpected turn. His reaction is wonderfully human. He initially suspects her cousin arranged it, then immediately pivots to righteous indignation about Jake's behavior, declaring he'll find his cousin to stand up for him. The moment where Keira questions his hatred of nepotism, and he sheepishly admits he doesn't hate connections, he hates useless people squatting in positions, adds genuine depth to his character. It's a rare moment of vulnerability from someone who clearly operates on pride and principle. The scene shifts to the banquet hall, where Jalen attempts to introduce Keira to industry seniors, only for Isla and Jake to orchestrate a deliberate interruption. Isla's entrance is calculated perfection, arm linked with Jake, strategically mentioning Dr. South, immediately drawing the crowd's attention away from Keira. The social maneuvering is brutal but realistic. Isla knows exactly how to weaponize her connections. But then Samuel Morgan arrives. The crowd rushes to him like moths to flame. Isla and Jake, emboldened by their perceived status, approach him with confidence. Isla believes he's finally acknowledging her. Jake puffs up, thinking Dr. South's respect extends to Isla. They're both so consumed by their own narratives that they miss what's actually happening. Samuel walks straight past them, heading directly for Keira, and asks with genuine familiarity, "What are you doing here?" Key moments, Keira presents an invitation with only her name. No company, no title. Leaving everyone scrambling to understand how she obtained it, Jalen admits he doesn't hate nepotism. He hates incompetent people coasting on connections, revealing a more nuanced personal philosophy. Isla and Jake orchestrate a public social coup, pulling the crowd away from Keira and Jalen. To establish dominance, Samuel Morgan arrives to a swarm of admirers. Ignoring Isla's greeting despite her confidence, Samuel walks past Isla and Jake entirely to reach Keira, shattering their public performance. Character development. This chapter is where Keira's quiet competence truly begins to unsettle everyone around her. She doesn't explain herself. She doesn't defend her position. She simply exists with a certainty that unnerves people like Jake, who need titles and affiliations to understand someone's worth. Her refusal to engage with Jake's accusations, "None of your business," isn't rudeness. It's the response of someone who knows her value doesn't require validation from people who have already decided she's beneath them. There's a quiet dignity in how she lets events unfold without grasping for control. Jalen's development here is surprisingly rich. He arrives expecting to be at a disadvantage, fully prepared to swallow his pride for Keira's sake, only to find she doesn't need his protection. His admission about nepotism feels genuine. This isn't a man who hates privilege, but one who hates seeing it wasted. His determination to introduce Keira to Samuel, despite his own lack of connection with him, shows a generosity that redeems his earlier abrasiveness. He's learning to trust her capabilities. Isla and Jake, meanwhile, reveal themselves as characters who mistake visibility for substance. Isla's confidence comes entirely from external validation, Dr. South's reputation, her engagement to Jake, the crowd's attention. The moment Samuel passes her by, her entire performance crumbles because she has nothing inside to fall back on. Jake's insecurity manifests as aggression. He can't comprehend Keira's access because it threatens his understanding of how the world should work. Their humiliation isn't just social, it's existential. My thoughts. I adored this chapter. There's something deeply satisfying about watching the universe reward quiet competence over loud entitlement. The pacing is impeccable. We start with Keira's small triumph at the door, build tension through Isla's calculated social sabotage, and then release everything with Samuel's entrance. The author understands that true power doesn't announce itself, it simply exists, and people who matter recognize it. The writing choice to keep Keira largely reactive through most of the chapter works brilliantly. She doesn't scheme, doesn't plot, doesn't try to prove anything. She simply is. And that passivity, rather than making her seem weak, makes her the most grounded presence in the room. Everyone else is performing. Keira is just living. Samuel's reaction confirms what readers have suspected. Keira's connections run deeper than anyone realizes, and her refusal to weaponize them makes her more formidable, not less. The scene where Isla and Jake walk toward Samuel, fully believing they've arrived, only for him to pass through them like smoke. There's a poetic justice to it that feels earned rather than contrived. Isla's assumption that Samuel was acknowledging her stems from her belief that the world revolves around her connections. The author doesn't need to spell out her humiliation. The gap between her expectation and reality says everything. Hash rating star 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 4. 85 hash what happens next. Samuel's arrival changes everything. The question, what are you doing here? Suggests genuine surprise and concern, not the tone you'd use with a stranger. Keira clearly has a relationship with him that predates this event. Given the running thread about Dr. South's identity and Samuel's known connection to him, I'm betting Keira herself is either Dr. South or has direct access to him. Isla and Jake have just publicly aligned themselves against someone who may outrank them in every way that matters to this crowd. The fallout will be spectacular, especially when everyone realizes who Keira actually is. Hash final verdict: this chapter is a turning point where the story stops hinting at Keira's hidden depths and starts showing them. The author balances social tension, character revelation, and narrative payoff with remarkable skill. By placing Keira's quiet competence against Isla's manufactured glamour, the chapter makes a compelling argument that genuine ability always outlasts borrowed status. It's the kind of chapter that makes you want to reread previous scenes with new eyes, searching for the clues you missed. Chapter 43, Identity. The masquerade unravels. One moment Keira is blending into the background, the next she's the center of attention, and the entire night turns into a high-stakes game of who knows what about whom. What happened? This chapter is a masterclass in tension, where almost nothing is said outright, but everything is felt. It opens with the room stunned. Samuel Morgan, the aloof, untouchable businessman, has just shown enthusiasm for someone. For a 20-something woman nobody's ever heard of. That alone is enough to send shockwaves through the entire gathering, and you can practically feel the collective shift of attention as everyone tries to figure out who Keira Olsen actually is. Isla clenches her fists, burning with jealousy. Jake frowns. Suspicious. But Samuel, realizing he stepped in it under his boss's warning gaze, backpedals gracefully, switching to formal address and covering his excitement as mere admiration. The room buys it mostly. Mr. King even offers Keira his business card, and the flattery flows like the champagne. But Jake, ever the skeptic and clearly nursing some resentment, throws out a barb. No matter how capable she is, can she be more capable than Dr. South? The silence that follows is deafening. Samuel says nothing, just smiles knowingly. Keira sips her champagne, unbothered, and Mr. King, smooth as ever, deflects with a triple compliment that keeps everyone happy. But the tension doesn't dissipate, it just moves. Keira escapes to the balcony, where she finds a text from Lewis, offering a ride home. Jalen follows her out and the conversation turns to Samuel. Jalen's playing matchmaker, seeing a potential connection between Keira and Samuel. Keira, bless her, is completely oblivious at first, offering a practical assessment of Samuel's character, dependable, hard-working, trustworthy, before realizing what Jalen's actually asking. But before she can correct him, Lewis appears on the neighboring balcony, his expression dark, and delivers a curt, almost possessive reprimand. Miss Olsen is already married. The revelation floors Jalen. And then there's that moment. Keira glances at Lewis but says nothing, and Lewis, equally tight-lipped, simply tells Jalen he talks too much. The subtext is electric. Back inside, Jake and Isla are still spiraling, trying to figure out if Keira knows Dr. South. Samuel deflects again. But when he catches up to Keira at the exit, it's to report to her about an upcoming business trip involving the company's seal and patent descriptions. Jalen, finally putting the pieces together, stares at her in disbelief. And Keira, with a sigh, finally admits it. I am Dr. South. Key moments. Samuel's unguarded enthusiasm for Keira, instantly outing their connection and forcing a hasty cover-up. Jake's cutting dismissal of Keira's capability compared to Dr. South, met with loaded silence. Lewis overhearing Jalen play matchmaker, and dropping the bombshell that Keira is married, with unmistakable possessiveness. Samuel reporting his travel plans to Keira at the exit, revealing her authority. Keira's quiet confession to Jalen. I am Dr. South. Character development. This chapter is a turning point for Keira's character arc, even if she barely seems to move. She's been content to stay in the background, letting others take the spotlight, but the world around her is no longer allowing that. Samuel's enthusiasm, Jake's jealousy, Jalen's curiosity, they're all pushing her toward revelation. What's striking is how comfortable she is in her own skin throughout. She doesn't flaunt her identity. She doesn't defend herself against Jake's jibe. She simply exists unbothered, and that quiet confidence is its own kind of power. Lewis is fascinating here. His possessiveness is barely concealed, and his reaction to Jalen's matchmaking, you talk too much, is pure, unfiltered jealousy dressed up as propriety. But there's something vulnerable in it. 2. He's not just angry, he's uncomfortable. The idea of Keira with someone else clearly bothers him more than he wants to admit, even to himself. His brief appearance on the balcony, half a head taller than Jalen, eyes cold, is a reminder that beneath that controlled exterior, there's a man very much invested in this marriage. Jalen is the comic relief, but he's also the audience surrogate. His dawning realization, from matchmaker to shocked discovery that Keira is not only married but Dr. South *, mirrors our own journey. He's bouncing between disbelief and curiosity, and his line, "Something's not right. If Mr. Morgan is going abroad, why is he reporting to you?" is the moment everything clicks into place. And Samuel, he's a loyal lieutenant walking a tightrope, torn between his excitement at seeing his boss and the need to protect her identity. His meaningful smile when Jake mentioned Dr. South is a beautiful piece of character work. It tells us everything without saying a word. My thoughts this chapter is delicious. It's all subtext and loaded glances, with every conversation carrying 3 layers of meaning. The author has constructed a social minefield, and watching the characters navigate it is genuinely thrilling. What makes it work so well is the restraint. Nobody announces the big secret to the room. The reveal comes quietly, to one person, almost as an afterthought. That's infinitely more satisfying than a dramatic public unmasking. The tension between what's said and what's known is where the magic lives. Samuel's careful backtracking, Lewis's curt interruption, Jalen's slow, dawning comprehension, even Isla and Jake's frantic speculation, they're all dancing around the truth, and we, the readers, are in on it. It creates this wonderful dramatic irony that makes every interaction feel charged. I also love how the chapter uses setting. The bright lobby, full of people toasting and exchanging pleasantries, contrasts sharply with the quiet balcony where the real conversations happen. Keira's discomfort with the social scene, her preference for the hospital room with the old lady and Lewis, tells us more about her character than any monologue could. She doesn't belong in this world of networking and posturing. She belongs in spaces where people are real. And that final admission, I am Dr. South lands with the weight it deserves. Not because it's shouted from a rooftop, but because it's a quiet surrender to someone who's earned the truth. Rating ******4. 8.5 What happens next? The cat is out of the bag for Jalen, but what about everyone else? Jake is clearly simmering with resentment and suspicion, and Isla's jealousy is only going to fester. The question isn't if Keira's identity will be publicly confirmed, it's when and how And what will that mean for her relationship with Lewis? His barely concealed possessiveness suggests he's not just a disinterested husband playing a role. There's real feeling there, and now that Jalen knows, the dynamic is going to shift significantly. Plus, Samuel's trip abroad, with the company's seal and pat descriptions, suggests there's a bigger plot in motion, something that will likely test Keira's authority and force her to step out of the shadows. Final verdict: this is the chapter where the mask starts to slip, and the writing is razor-sharp. Every glance, every hesitation, every half-spoken sentence carries weight. The pacing is perfect, slow enough to savor the tension, fast enough to keep you turning pages. Keira's quiet power, Lewis's subtle jealousy, Samuel's loyalty, Jalen's shock, it all comes together in a scene that feels both intimate and explosive. If this chapter were a meal, it would be a perfectly cooked steak. Simple ingredients but executed with precision and depth. Highly satisfying and leaving you hungry for more. Chapter 44, Tell Her. The art of unraveling truths and tangled ties. A dinner party confession about her true identity leaves Keira's team skeptical. But the real fireworks ignite when a simple car ride with Lewis turns into a pulse-quickening tangle of proximity, panic, and a clingy uncle with a secret for sale. What happened? Sometimes the most explosive moments come from the simplest admissions. That's the energy running through this chapter like a live wire. Keira, ever the pragmatist, decides that her identity as the legendary Dr. South isn't something worth hiding from her inner circle. She just doesn't want it broadcast to the world. Simple enough, right? Wrong. Jalen's reaction is an absolute delight. He laughs her off. Genuinely, deeply laughs. The idea that this young woman could be the academic titan Dr. South is so preposterous to him that he pivots to an even wilder theory, that she's having an affair with Samuel. The man's imagination is a rocket ship. He launches into a sanctimonious lecture about cheating and respectability, which earns him a death stare from Lewis that could freeze a desert. Lewis's muttered, "You talk too much," is the verbal equivalent of a door slamming in Jalen's face. Samuel rolls up in a banana yellow sports car, practically vibrating with the thrill of making Keira scream with his driving, but Lewis, in a move so smooth it's almost invisible, blocks the play. After drinking, don't get in a stranger's car, he advises softly, ignoring that he was just drinking himself. Keira chooses Lewis's Bentley, leaving Samuel deflated and Jalen utterly abandoned when Lewis tells him to take a cab. The hierarchy is clear. Keira is in, Jalen is out. But here's where the chapter truly shifts gears. In the dark, warm intimacy of the Bentley, Lewis asks Keira to change his bandages. What starts as clinical, she examines his wound, admires his physique with detached professionalism, spirals when the car swerves. She falls into him, her lips brushing his shoulder. Her hands pressed against his chest. Lewis freezes. The air turns thick. He's suffocating in his own skin. When they reach the hospital, he flees the car like it's on fire, leaving Keira genuinely puzzled about his mood. And just when she thinks the night is over, her Uncle Finley materializes from the shadows, dollar signs in his eyes, ready to sell her a truth about herself. Key moments, Keira casually reveals she's Dr. South. Jalen scoffs, then accuses her of having an affair with Samuel. Instead, Lewis shuts down Jalen's moralizing lecture with a two-word warning that speaks volumes. Samuel's flashy yellow sports car appears. Lewis subtly vetoes Keira riding with him. The car swerve. Keira falls into Lewis, her lips brushing his bare shoulder, sending him into a spiral of silent panic. Finley shows up with a secret for sale. Keira pays a deposit, and he's ready to talk character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing who people are by how they react to surprise. Jalen is loyal but prejudiced. He can't reconcile Keira's youth with her reputation, which reveals a deep-seated assumption that brilliance must look a certain way. His refusal to believe her isn't malice, it's a failure of imagination. He's also, beneath the bluster, surprisingly principled. His rant about cheating, however misplaced, comes from a real moral compass. He just doesn't know when to shut up. Lewis, though, is the quiet volcano of the chapter. Every interaction reveals a man who controls everything except his own feelings. His advice to Keira about not riding with strangers after drinking is a masterpiece of projection and protection wrapped in civility. He banishes his own cousin to a cab without a flicker of guilt. And then in the car, his composure unravels. The scene where Keira tends to his wounds is exquisitely tense because Lewis is a man who hates losing control, and here he is, utterly undone by a woman's accidental touch. His physical reaction, the stiffening, the shallow breath, the panicked bolt from the car, isn't about pain. It's about vulnerability. He's not used to wanting something he can't simply acquire. Keira remains wonderfully grounded. She's not oblivious, just pragmatic. She misreads his panic as negotiation failure, which is both endearing and a little sad. She's so used to being the capable one that she can't see the effect she has. Her decision to pay Finley for the truth is smart, but risky. She's buying information from a man who sees her as a bank account. My thoughts this chapter works because it understands that tension doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be quiet, almost domestic. A bandage change, a car swerve, a hand on a chest. The author builds an entire emotional earthquake out of a few square inches of contact. That moment where Keira's lips brush Lewis's shoulder, it's electric because of what doesn't happen. He doesn't pull her closer. She doesn't linger. They both pretend it meant nothing, which makes it mean everything. I also love how the chapter plays with perspective. We see Lewis through Keira's eyes, prickly, business-focused, slightly confusing, but we also get glimpses of his interior through his physical tells. The loosening tie, the stuffy car, the abrupt exit. The author trusts the reader to connect. Those dots. It's sophisticated storytelling. Show the behavior, let us feel the heat. The Finley subplot is a perfect scene setter for what's to come. Just when Keira thinks she's navigating one mystery, Lewis's moods, Jalen's suspicions, Samuel's flirting, a deeper one surfaces. Finley is a vulture, but he's also a key. His secret could crack open Keira's past. I'm already leaning forward. #rating ********4. 85 # what happens next. Finley is about to spill something big, and given his shifty track record, it's probably going to shatter Keira's understanding of her family history. Meanwhile, Lewis is not going to recover from that car ride gracefully. Expect him to either. Avoid Keira entirely or become aggressively, bafflingly formal. That kind of tension has to boil over. And Jalen? He's going to start asking real questions about Dr. South. The secret is leaking. Final verdict: this chapter is a quiet powerhouse. It deepens relationships through small, intimate moments rather than grand declarations, and it dangles a tantalizing mystery just when the romantic tension is at its peak. The character work is sharp, the dialogue crisp, and that car scene will live rent-free in my head for weeks. Keira and Lewis are circling each other beautifully, and the cracks in their composed exteriors are exactly what make this story so compelling. Chapter 45. Family. When strangers show more heart than blood, a desperate wife overhears her husband and mother-in-law plotting her death, and only a passing stranger is willing to intervene. What happened? This chapter plunges us straight into the murky waters of family secrets, financial desperation, and the silent suffering that happens behind hospital walls. It opens with Keira in a tense negotiation with Finley, who's dangling some tantalizing truth about the Olsen family for a hefty price tag. Before he can spill the beans, Isla comes charging in, frantic and disheveled, to cut the deal short. She's clearly been paying Finley off to keep something hidden, and the dynamic between these three is deliciously poisonous. But the real gut punch of this chapter comes when Keira and Isla ascend the stairs to the VIP wards. A mother and son are having a hushed conversation in the corridor, and Keira overhears something that made my blood run cold. The son's wife, Rebecca, needs a $70,000 surgery, and instead of selling the house she bought with her dowry, the mother-in-law is calmly suggesting they let her die. She's got a replacement lined up, a woman with nice wide hips for childbearing, and she's already written off Rebecca as dead weight. The son, after a moment's hesitation, agrees. Then let's not treat her. Rebecca hears everything. She's standing there in her hospital gown, pale as a ghost, barely able to stand. When she begs to call her brother, the son refuses. She latches onto Isla's leg for help, and Isla, cold, calculating Isla, pulls away with a sneer, blaming Rebecca for her own suffering. Someone obsessed with romance never ends well. All of this is your own fault. That's when Keira steps out of the shadows. She takes Rebecca's brother's number, dials Frankie Allen, and calmly informs him his sister is dying. The brother is in Oceanian for work and can be there in 30 minutes. Keira makes it clear, no one is taking Rebecca anywhere. Even as Isla mocks her for meddling, Keira stands firm. It's the first moment in this chapter where someone actually gives a damn. Key moments. Finley nearly reveals a truth about the Olsen family, but is interrupted by Isla, who pays him off for another $100,000. Isla receives a call from Jake asking if her mother knows anyone from the Allen family, specifically Frankie Allen. Keira overhears a mother and son plotting to let the son's wife die rather than pay for her surgery. Rebecca, the dying wife, overhears the same conversation and collapses in despair. Keira ignores Isla's mockery, calls Frankie Allen, and stops the mother and son from taking Rebecca home to die. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing who people really are when the masks slip. Isla has always been self-interested, but watching her yank her leg away from a dying woman and blame her for her own tragedy is a new low. She's not just selfish, she's cruel in a casual, almost bored way. She sees suffering and decides it's deserved. That's a chilling glimpse into her moral compass, or rather, the absence of one. Keira, on the other hand, is the quiet hero of this piece. She doesn't deliver a grand speech or moral lecture. She simply acts. When she overhears the conversation between the mother and son, she doesn't hesitate. She doesn't ask if it's her place or worry about consequences. She sees a woman on the brink of death and picks up the phone. There's something deeply compelling about a character who moves through the world with such clear-eyed determination. She's been through enough herself to recognize when someone is being discarded, and she refuses to let it happen. On her watch, and then there's Rebecca. We only see her for a few paragraphs, but her story is heartbreakingly vivid. She fell in love, severed ties with her family, and now she's paying for it with her life. Her regret is palpable. She knew she was wrong. She wanted to see her brother. She missed her parents. It's a tragic reminder that love can be blinding, and sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who will bury us. My thoughts. This chapter hit me hard. The hospital corridor conversation between the mother and son is one of the most chilling scenes I've read in this story. The casualness of it, we'll just say we have no money and take her home. Once she's dead, you can marry the girl from the blind date, is bone-deep unsettling. The mother doesn't see Rebecca as a person. She's an obstacle, an inconvenience. A body to be disposed of so her son can move on to a better model. And the son, he's worse. He gives in within seconds. There's no real love there, just a weak man who's happy to let his wife die so he doesn't have to sell the house. And Isla's cruelty in that moment. I wanted to reach through the page and shake her. Rebecca is grabbing her leg, begging for help, and Isla recoils like she's been touched by something filthy. For a guy, you severed ties with your family. Someone obsessed with romance never ends. Well, that's not just cold, that's a philosophy. Isla genuinely believes that women who make sacrifices for love deserve what they get. It's a deeply ugly worldview, and it makes me root for Keira even harder. Keira's intervention is the emotional payoff this chapter needed. She doesn't yell or threaten, she just does what needs to be done. The call to Frankie Allen, the quiet authority in her voice. Until her brother arrives, no one is allowed to take her away. It's enough. For now, it's enough. But I'm already dreading what might happen if Frankie doesn't make it in time. Rating *******4. 8.5 What happens next? Frankie Allen is racing to the hospital, and I have a feeling he's not going to be in a forgiving mood. He called himself Frankie on the phone, which makes me wonder if he's the same Frankie Allen that Jake was asking Isla about, the head of the Allen family. If so, Isla just handed Keira the exact connection Jake needs, but in the worst possible way. She publicly mocked Rebecca while Keira saved her. When Frankie arrives and sees who helped his sister, that political alliance is going to land squarely in Keira's lap. Isla's meddling is going to backfire spectacularly. And then there's the unfinished business with Finley. He was about to reveal something about Keira and the Olsen family before Isla interrupted. That truth is still out there, and it's worth $100,000. Whatever it is, it's big enough to make Finley think he's sitting on a goldmine. I suspect we haven't seen the last of him. Final verdict. This chapter is a turning point. It shifts the focus from financial scheming and family politics to raw, visceral human cruelty and the equally raw courage of someone who refuses to look away. Keira's intervention isn't just a rescue. It's a declaration of who she is and what she stands for. The mother and son represent everything wrong with the world Keira inhabits: greed, coldness, and the willingness to sacrifice anyone for comfort. Keira's quiet defiance is the antidote. She doesn't just see the suffering, she acts. And in a story full of people looking the other way, that makes her a character worth rooting for. Chapter 46. Arrival. When the truth costs $70,000, the cost of a life in this chapter is a staggering $70,000, and the price of dignity is even higher. Rebecca lies dying not from her illness, but from the slow poison of a husband who has been systematically stripping her of everything for years, and Keira, the only one fighting to save her, faces an entire hospital determined to let her die. What happened? This chapter is a masterclass in tension, beginning with Rebecca's teary-eyed confession that she has lived a lie. She married for love, ignoring her family's warnings, and spent 2 years degrading herself, learning to cook, clean, and scrub floors for a husband who now stands over her dying body and negotiates with strangers about her medical bills. But here's the killer detail. Rebecca was a pampered princess, a family treasure who had never worked a day in her life. She chose this suffering to prove her love, and now she's drowning in her own decisions. Her husband, that snake, arrives not to save her but to bury her. He paints Rebecca as a desperate runaway who eloped out of desperation, a girl whose family abandoned her, and therefore a woman who deserves to die quietly. He conjures up a false, dying wish, where Rebecca supposedly chose natural death over resuscitation. The mother-in-law joins the performance, screaming about meddling strangers and the sacred right to die at home. The crowd turns on Keira immediately, accusing her of moral kidnapping and naive enthusiasm. And Keira, she's fighting a war on two fronts. One hand is performing CPR, and she can't let go even when the mother-in-law yanks her hair violently, even when security tries to drag her away physically. She holds her ground, dislocates the husband's arm to free Rebecca, and continues compressions while the crowd shouts her down. Isla watches from the sideline and sneers, calling Keira a fool with good intentions. But then, at the very end, luxury cars screech into the hospital parking lot, and a man named Frankie Allen jumps out with bodyguards. The cavalry has arrived, but has it come in time? Key moments. The husband manipulates the narrative into Rebecca supposedly wanting to die with dignity, and the hospital staff sides with him since legal guardianship is on his side. Keira dislocates the husband's arm to force Rebecca from his grip, then begins CPR against everyone's protests, refusing to let her die. The mother-in-law physically attacks Keira during the resuscitation, yanking her hair and pinching her, while Keira doesn't fight back to maintain pressure on the chest compressions. Isla calls out Keira for moral kidnapping, and the crowd turns unanimously against the savior figure, painting her as the villain. The head nurse has a moment of moral clarity when she learns Rebecca's brother has been called and could also be considered a guardian, creating legal wiggle room for the rescue. The luxury cars and Frankie Allen's arrival disrupt the entire scene, signaling that Rebecca's family has real wealth and power after all. Character development. Rebecca is the heartbreak of this chapter. She is not a passive victim. She actively chose suffering to prove her love. She learned to scrub floors, she didn't tell her husband about her family's money per her brother's request, and she endured 2 years of isolation. But the tragedy is that she never realized humiliation doesn't become love just because you cry while doing it. When her husband calls her a desperate runaway, and she struggles to even breathe to correct him, that's the moment she realizes she sold herself for a lie. She didn't just marry poorly. She married a man who would watch her die over a few $1,000s and monetize her corpse for sympathy. Keira crystallizes into a complex protagonist in this chapter. She isn't naive, she knows exactly what she's doing. She calls Rebecca's brother immediately, fights security, even dislocates a man's arm, all while enduring physical assault. She doesn't scream back at the crowd or argue philosophy. She just keeps performing chest compressions. There is quiet, stubborn heroism in her refusal to let go. She absorbs the hate and the hair-pulling because saving a life matters more than looking good in the eyes of strangers. But the chapter also hints at her having deeper resources. She calls the brother easily, and the luxury cars arriving suggest she moved in wealthy circles. The husband and mother-in-law are masterfully drawn villains. They are not cartoonishly evil but mundane, practical monsters. They wanted Rebecca to die because she was the one with the illness, and they had probably already planned post-death property transfers. The mother-in-law's fake crying, the husband's confession that Rebecca's house is joint property and therefore his asset, these are not crimes of passion. They are cold, calculated greed. And Isla, the bystander who mocks. Keira reveals how society enables such cruelty by calling it every family's own difficulties and moralizing against interference. My thoughts. This chapter made me hold my breath. Honestly, I had to put my phone down after the hair-pulling scene. The author wrote that moment with such visceral physicality, Keira's scalp throbbing, the mother-in-law's nails digging in, but she cannot stop pressing on Rebecca's chest because stopping is losing. The author trusts the reader to understand why Keira doesn't fight back, and that trust is rewarded with a deeply uncomfortable tension. We want her to strike the old woman, to scream at the crowd, but we know she can't. The moral clarity is suffocating. The husband's manipulation of the dying with dignity narrative is a brilliant and horrifying beat. In any other context, talk of not wanting resuscitation and choosing natural death is a deeply personal, valid medical choice. But here, it is weaponized. He has stolen even his dying wife's agency by twisting her words. The chapter makes me furious at the ease with which abusers can co-opt progressive language about death and dignity to murder people slowly. And the crowd's willingness to swallow it, that's the bitterest pill. One craft choice I find effective: the head nurse's decision to side with Keira when she realizes the brother could also be a guardian. It's a small bureaucratic detail, but it gives the reader a break from the suffocating hostility. It suggests that institutions can be forced to work correctly if you know the cracks in the system. It also tees up the larger payoff of the brother's arrival beautifully. The pacing is perfect. Just as despair settles in, the luxury cars pull into the lot. The hope lands like a sonic boom. #rating ****4. 85 # what happens next. Frankie Allen's arrival with bodyguards and luxury cars suggests Rebecca's family is powerful and wealthy, confirming her confessing earlier that her family has money. The husband is about to realize he played the wrong game. He called her family poor, but they are about to walk in and expose his lies. I suspect Frankie will tear legal guardianship away from the husband immediately, and the hospital will be forced to treat Rebecca. The mother-in-law will likely attempt to flee, but with bodyguards present, she probably won't get far. This sets up a legal and family drama where the husband will try to spin the story or possibly attempt to flee with assets before being caught. There's also the unresolved thread of Rebecca's mother, who earlier cried over her daughter scrubbing floors. We might meet her soon, and she will be an emotional force to be reckoned with. Final verdict: this chapter hits a perfect emotional climax by placing its heroine under physical and social siege, while she literally holds a dying woman in her hands. The author exposes how cruelty wears sheep's clothing, dying wishes, lack of money, privacy concerns, and how good people must often break rules to save lives. Keira cements herself as a protagonist worth rooting for, flawed enough to be human, stubborn enough to be heroic, and compassionate enough to hold on when the whole world wants her to let go. It's uncomfortable, infuriating, and absolutely unmissable. Chapter 47. Savior. When heroics meet hostility, a chance act of heroism in a hospital corridor sets off a chain of moral reckonings, as Keira fights not just to save a life, but against greed, family betrayal, and the petty jealousy of those who can only see social climbing where there is none. # what happened. Frankie's arrival on the second floor is a gut punch of pure dread. He finds his sister Rebecca on the ground, receiving CPR from a stranger, a primitive, desperate measure in a place that should be filled with beeping machines and sterile efficiency. The sight of her pale, weak form stops his heart cold. But the horror doesn't end there. A middle-aged woman is physically attacking the rescuer, yanking her hair and screaming that Rebecca doesn't need saving, that death would be cheaper than treatment. Rebecca's own husband chimes in with cold, calculated math: $70,000 for treatment, $10,000 monthly. He calls himself useless, but really, he's just willing to let his wife die for the balance sheet. Frankie's face darkens into something murderous. He knows exactly what his sister's jewelry box is worth. That this is about $70,000 makes him want to kill them both. As he moves toward Rebecca, the mother-in-law notices the patient's hand twitch. She's been revived, and launches at Keira with nails aimed at her face. That's when Frankie intervenes with a kick that sends the woman sprawling. The husband screams about corpses and calls for the police, but Frankie is already on it, ordering his bodyguards to have them arrested for attempted murder for money. Keira, calm and clinical, tells Frankie that Rebecca needs immediate surgery. He thanks her briefly, carries his sister away, and the police swiftly confirm the mother and son's intentions. The crowd cheers for Keira, but the warmth fades fast. Isla, lurking behind her, twists the narrative into something ugly. Keira is just a social climber, desperate to ingratiate herself with a wealthy family, and look, the brother didn't even properly thank her. Keira touches her sore scalp and feels the sting of the woman's assault, along with the deeper sting of Isla's venom. She messages Lewis that she's going home, missing him entirely in his VIP ward where he's been anxiously waiting, equally relieved and irritated by her absence. Back home, she detangles her hair, mourns the fallen strands, eats liver for the iron, and returns to work. The next morning, Jalen greets her with relief that she isn't living with his cousin and speculates that Lewis's bad mood is because Frankie Allen, yes, that Frankie is coming to the office for business. Across town, Rebecca wakes up, cries with her parents, and asks about her savior. Frankie promises to find her. And then, waiting for the elevator, he sees Keira. Key moments. Frankie arrives to find his sister receiving CPR from a stranger, while her in-laws actively try to stop the rescue for financial reasons. Frankie kicks the mother-in-law and has both her and the husband arrested for attempted murder for money, revealing the cold calculus behind their objections. Keira saves Rebecca's life, remains calm under physical attack, and brushes off the need for gratitude, focusing only on the patients. Survival. Isla twists the event into a narrative of social climbing, accusing Keira of saving Rebecca only to gain favor with a wealthy family. Frankie sees Keira at the elevator the next day, setting up their inevitable reunion. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in contrasting moral cores. Keira's heroism is presented as instinctive, almost reflexive. She doesn't hesitate, doesn't calculate the social currency of saving a stranger. Even when attacked physically, her first concern is Rebecca's heartbeat. She doesn't expect gratitude, doesn't chase recognition. Later, she goes home, eats liver for iron, and gets back to work. It's the portrait of someone whose goodness is so ingrained it's invisible to her, which makes the contrast with Isla all the more striking. Isla is evolving into a fascinating antagonist not because she's evil in a cartoonish sense, but because she's deeply, painfully human. She sees the world as a zero-sum game of status and advantage. When she accuses Keira of social climbing, she's projecting her own worldview onto someone who simply acted with decency. The tragedy is that Isla genuinely believes she's being insightful, that she's unmasking a fraud. Her spite comes from a place of insecurity and envy. She watched Keira succeed where she would have failed, and that burns her. Frankie's character is revealed in those brief, violent moments. His love for his sister is fierce and protective, but there's also a terrifying darkness in him. He doesn't just stop the attack, he wants to kill those people. His kick to the mother-in-law's chest is not measured. It's explosive, almost primal. Yet he switches seamlessly to efficiency when Keira tells him Rebecca needs surgery. He thanks her, carries her out, and later promises to find her savior. He's a man of action, for better and worse, and his loyalty is absolute, a dangerous quality in an ally and a terrifying one in an enemy. My thoughts. There's a moment in this chapter that stopped me cold. The husband calmly listing the costs of treatment, calling himself useless, as if financial hardship justifies letting his wife die on a hospital floor. And Frankie's realization, one piece of jewelry from her room costs more than the entire sum they're arguing over. That single detail is devastating. It turns the in-laws from selfish pragmatists into something far uglier. People who have already decided the woman's life isn't worth the price tag, who were willing to watch her die to avoid a debt they could easily afford if they simply cared. The author weaves this moment of class commentary into a scene of pure tension with impressive subtlety. You don't feel lectured. You feel sick. That's the power of good writing. It makes you experience the injustice rather than just understand it intellectually. I also love how the chapter subverts the expected gratitude scene. Frankie doesn't fall at Keira's feet with tears of gratitude. He's too focused on his sister to linger. Isla immediately twists the absence of effusive thanks into proof of Keira's calculated scheming. But we, the readers, know better. We saw Keira's head getting yanked and her hair falling out, saw her eat liver and go back to work. The gap between appearance and reality is growing wider, and that tension is delicious. The ending is a perfect hook. Frankie sees Keira by the elevator. The woman who saved his sister's life is standing right there, and he doesn't know it yet. I am holding my breath. Rating *******4. 85 What happens next? This can only be an explosive reunion. The moment Frankie realizes Keira is his sister's savior, the dynamic shifts entirely. He already owes her a life, and now he's about to discover she's connected to Lewis Horton, the man he has a bad relationship with. Suddenly, the business meeting becomes a tangled web of obligation, gratitude, and professional conflict. Will Frankie use this as leverage? Will Lewis, who is supposedly in a bad mood about this meeting, be blindsided by the revelation? And then there's Isla. She's going to be furious when she finds out who Keira actually saved, and she'll likely try to spin the narrative again, or worse, attempt to insert herself into the conversation to claim some credit. The game is about to get much more complicated. Final verdict. This chapter is a perfect storm of high-stakes drama, moral clarity, and emotional brutality. It takes a simple act of heroism and layers it with class critique, family betrayal, and character-defining reactions that reveal who these people really are. Keira emerges as a genuine, unaffected protagonist whose goodness feels earned, not idealized. Frankie is a gripping new force of nature, dangerous, devoted, and now indebted. The stage is set for a collision between personal loyalty and professional warfare, and I cannot wait to see the sparks fly. Chapter 48. Solution. The calm before the storm. The chase is on, the clocks are ticking, and Keira Olsen is about to prove that underestimating her is the biggest mistake anyone could make. What happened. This chapter picks up with Frankie catching a glimpse of Keira in the hospital lobby, his suspicions piqued by how much she resembles the mysterious young woman from the day before. But as luck would have it, or perhaps fate's cruel timing, the elevator doors slide shut just as he reaches them, leaving him with nothing but a phone number and a nagging feeling that something is off. Meanwhile, back at the office, the R&D department is in full-blown panic mode. Tomorrow is the deadline, and Vice President Horton has made it crystal clear that he expects results. The atmosphere is thick with desperation, colleagues pulling their hair out, murmurs of defeat floating through the cubicles, and everyone looking for a miracle they don't believe is coming. Luca tries to keep expectations realistic, reminding everyone that no matter how talented Keira is, she can't compete with Dr. South's expertise. Then Jalen drops a bombshell. Keira apparently knows Samuel Morgan. The room lights up with excitement. Could she introduce them to Dr. South? Keira's response is characteristically calm and teasing. Sure, we might even work together someday. Everyone laughs it off as wishful thinking, but we readers know better, don't we? Jake, ever the antagonist, is working his own angle. He calls Isla, demanding Dr. South's solution before the deadline. Isla panics. She's been using Mrs. Olsen's email to contact Dr. South, but his replies have been cold and dismissive. He's on a business trip and won't be disturbed. The engagement she's desperately clinging to is slipping through her fingers, and she knows that once Jake realizes she's lost her value, he'll discard her like yesterday's newspaper. So she turns to Mrs. Olsen, probing about the Allens from Clance. The old woman's guarded reaction tells Isla everything she needs to know. Mrs. Olsen knows something but refuses to share it. Back at the office, Keira and her team have actually made progress. By the end of the day, the general plan is almost complete, just needs refinement. She heads to the parking lot, expecting Lewis, but he's not there. The driver says he has an appointment. Lewis doesn't come home that night. The next morning, Keira arrives at work buzzing with excitement, her completed plan in hand. Jake is waiting for her like a predator stalking prey, smug and condescending. He reminds her of their bet, taunting her about her inevitable failure, even suggesting he might introduce her to Dr. South if she works for him. Keira's response? A scoff. Don't bother. He doubles down, insulting Samuel Morgan, calling Keira a plaything, insinuating that she's delusional for thinking she can compete with a genius like Dr. South. And then Keira drops the mic. My solution is already complete. The irony in her eyes as she asks him whether he's managed to get Dr. South's solution is absolutely delicious. Key moments. Frankie spots Keira in the hospital lobby, but loses her when the elevator doors close, missing his chance to confirm his suspicions. The R&D team discovers Keira knows Samuel Morgan, sparking hope and excitement about potentially meeting Dr. South. Jake pressures Isla for Dr. South's solution, exposing her lies and her desperate scheme using Mrs. Olsen's email. Isla confronts Mrs. Olsen about the Allens from Clance, sensing the old woman is hiding something important. Keira reveals her solution is complete, while Jake is still scrambling for Dr. South's. Flipping the power dynamic entirely. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing rather than telling when it comes to character. Keira continues to embody that quiet, unshakable confidence that makes her such a compelling protagonist. She doesn't boast, she doesn't defend herself against Jake's insults. She simply knows what she's capable of, and that certainty is more powerful than any verbal comeback. Her smile when she tells the team they might work with Dr. South someday isn't arrogance. It's the calm assurance of someone who's in on a secret the rest of the world hasn't figured out yet. Jake, on the other hand, is unraveling beautifully. His arrogance is starting to show cracks. He's so desperate to win this bet that he's chasing shadows, threatening Isla, and trying to intimidate Keira with empty words. The fact that he shows up early just to taunt her reveals how threatened he actually is. He's not confident, he's nervous, and people who are nervous tend to make mistakes. Isla's development here is particularly fascinating. We're watching her transformation from calculated manipulator to desperate schemer. The panic in her voice when Jake calls, the frantic way she tries to pressure Mrs. Olsen, she's losing control, and she knows it. Her decision to probe about the Allens shows that she's willing to dig into family secrets to save her own skin, which tells us she's far more dangerous than we initially thought. She's not just a jealous rival, she's someone who will burn bridges and betray confidences without hesitation. The scene with Mrs. Olsen is subtle but significant. Her fingers tightening at the mention of the Allens, her refusal to elaborate. There's history there, old wounds, hidden connections. It's a small moment, but it opens up a whole new layer of mystery. Hash my thoughts, okay? I have to admit, I was grinning like an idiot when Keira dropped that line about her solution being complete. There's something deeply satisfying about watching an underdog hold all the cards without anyone realizing it. The author has done a brilliant job building this tension throughout the chapter, letting Jake's arrogance inflate while Keira's confidence stays quiet and steady. It's the classic setup for a knockout punch, and I am here for it. The pacing in this chapter is excellent. We've got multiple threads running simultaneously: Frankie's curiosity, the team's despair, Jake's scheming, Isla's desperation, and Keira's quiet competence, and they all weave together without feeling chaotic. The hospital scene with Frankie creates a nice hook for future revelations, while the office scenes ground us in the immediate stakes of the bet. And that little moment with Lewis being absent, that's the kind of detail that makes me suspicious. In stories like this, nothing is accidental. I'm keeping an eye on where he was that night. The dialogue feels natural, especially among the R&D team. Their banter, their complaints, their sudden excitement about Dr. South, it all reads like real workplace dynamics. And Jake's dialogue is perfectly calibrated to make you despise him just a little more with every word. He just takes you as a plaything. That's not just an insult, it's projection. Jake is the one who sees people as tools. Hash rating *******4. 8.5 hash what happens next. The obvious prediction is that Keira is going to submit her solution and absolutely demolish Jake's expectations. But the real question is, what happens when Jake realizes that Keira's work is essentially on par with, or identical to, what he expected from Dr. South? Isla's lies are about to come crashing down, and when Jake connects the dots between Keira's genius and Dr. South's notorious brilliance, we might finally get the reveal we've been waiting for. Frankie's investigation is going to pick up steam. He has Keira's phone number, and he's clearly determined to figure out who she is. If he starts digging, he might uncover connections that lead back to the Allens, or worse, expose secrets the family has been keeping. And Isla, she's a cornered animal. She knows. Her engagement is on the line, and she's already shown she's willing to manipulate family members to get what she wants. The question is how far she'll go. Will she try to sabotage Keira's solution? Will she find another way to discredit her? Whatever she's planning, it won't be pretty. Hash final verdict: this chapter is a masterful setup for the payoff we've been anticipating. It balances tension, character work, and plot progression with a deft hand, leaving readers satisfied yet hungry for more. The way Keira's quiet confidence contrasts with Jake's blustering insecurity is a joy to read, and the hints dropped about the Allens and Frankie's investigation promise even bigger revelations ahead. It's the kind of chapter that reminds you why you fell in love with this story in the first place. Sharp, clever, and always keeping you guessing. Chapter 49. Completion. The plot thickens in a blaze of genius and betrayal when Keira finishes the impossible engineering solution in record time. Her triumph is immediately poisoned by accusations of theft. In a single, devastating turn, this chapter transforms a victory lap into a high-stakes battle for reputation and truth. Hash what happened. This chapter is a masterclass in dramatic whiplash. We open with Jake's stunned disbelief as Keira announces she's completed the complex energy solution that had the entire R&D department stumped. The reader shares his shock. We've been watching her work, sure, but finishing something that even the legendary Dr. South needed extra time for. That's a statement. Keira doesn't bask in the glory, though. She strides into Group 1's office to find her team in various states of exhaustion and defiance. Luca is ready to throw hands at Jake, Jalen has pulled an all-nighter to cobble together a partial solution, and everyone is rallying around their young leader. When Keira drops the bombshell that she's already finished, the room's reaction is pure gold. Disbelief, laughter, outright claims of hallucination. It takes an actual email ping to silence the room. Then comes the rooftop scene, and let me tell you, this is where the chapter truly sings. Keira breezes in to see Lewis and in a moment of what feels like genuine flirtation, she starts to say she was thinking about you before a cough makes her course correct to thinking about your book. Lewis's reaction is quietly devastating. He ruins a document, his throat tightens, and you can feel the weight of his 2 days of overthinking crashing down around him. The man actually has to tell her not to stop in the middle of sentences like that. It's painful, tender, and so human, but the chapter's real gut punch arrives at clock-off. Jake storms in with Dr. South's solution, which is, shock, nearly identical to Keira's. The accusation is immediate and brutal. Theft. Jalen tries to defend her, but Jake's logic is airtight from a corporate standpoint. Keira, though, is thinking 3 steps ahead. Her quiet response, couldn't there be a third possibility, lands like a thunderclap. Someone has forged her work to look like Dr. South's. The question is, who and why? Key moments. Keira announces she's completed the energy solution. Stunning Jake and her entire team, Jalen reveals he worked all night on a partial solution, only to be rendered obsolete. The group's disbelief transforms into awe when the email with Keira's solution arrives. Keira's near confession to Lewis, "I was thinking about you, your book," creates aching romantic tension. Jake accuses Keira of stealing Dr. South's solution, setting up a major conflict. Character development. This chapter is a showcase for Keira's quiet competence and strategic mind. She doesn't strut or gloat when she finishes the solution. She simply states it and moves on, treating the monumental achievement as business as usual. That composure is her armor, and it's fascinating to watch. When she visits Lewis, there's a flicker of vulnerability. That aborted confession feels genuine, even if she recovers quickly. She's not just a brilliant engineer, she's a woman navigating complex personal dynamics while under professional siege. Lewis, meanwhile, is a portrait of repressed longing. The man is reviewing documents when Keira walks in, and his physical reaction to her presence, the ruined document, the burning sensation at the small of his back, tells us everything his words woe. His line about overthinking the car kiss for 2 days while she's apparently forgotten it is heartbreakingly real. He's trying to maintain his cool, professional exterior, but the cracks are showing. His laugh at the end is tinged with self-mockery, and it makes him deeply sympathetic. Jake's role here is interesting. He's not a cartoon villain, he's a man wedded to hierarchy and reputation. The idea that an undergraduate could match Dr. South is so far outside his mental framework that theft is the only logical explanation. That's good writing. His accusation stems from genuine disbelief, not malice, which makes the conflict more nuanced. My thoughts. This chapter is a roller coaster, and I loved every twist. The pacing is superb. We go from triumph to tenderness to betrayal in the span of a few pages, and each emotional beat lands with precision. The romantic tension between Keira and Lewis is handled beautifully. That interrupted confession is one of the best will they, won't they moments I've read in a while. Lewis's internal turmoil is so well drawn that I felt genuinely bad for him, even as Keira remains endearingly oblivious. The accusation scene is where the author's craft really shines. By having Jake present a legitimate-sounding case, the 2 solutions are nearly identical. Dr. South is a respected scholar, Keira is an undergraduate. The author forces us to feel the weight of the accusation. We know Keira is innocent, but in the world of the novel, how does she prove it? The answer lies in that brilliant third option she proposes: forgery. But that raises its own questions. Who would do this? Why target Keira specifically? Is this about corporate politics, or is it personal? The only minor quibble I have is that the technical details are a bit vague. I'd love a few more specifics about the solution itself to fully appreciate Keira's genius. But that's a small complaint in a chapter that delivers so much emotional payoff. #rating *****4. 85 what happens next? The third possibility Keira raises is the key. Someone forged Dr. South's solution to mirror hers. This means there's a traitor in the company, someone with access to her work. The immediate tension will be proving her innocence, likely by tracing the email chain or exposing the forger's methods. But the larger mystery is *Y. Is this a personal attack from a rival or part of a larger corporate scheme? Given Lewis's position, this could tie into broader power struggles within the company. Also, Keira's Alzheimer's research for Mrs. Horton feels like a Chekhov's gun. That skill set might become relevant in unexpected ways. Final verdict Chapter 49 is a turning point that elevates the novel from a straightforward office drama into a layered mystery with romantic tension and corporate intrigue. The accusation against Keira feels earned and believable, the romantic subplot aches with unspoken feeling, and the central question of who forged the solution promises rich storytelling ahead. This chapter delivers on every front: tension, character depth, and a cliffhanger that genuinely makes you desperate for the next installment. The director was slightly stunned. What third possibility? However, Jake rebuked sternly, "Keira, stop making excuses here. I advise you to admit your mistakes obediently. The company may be lenient in punishing you for your first offense." Jalen immediately turned his eyes to her. "Keira, explain to us. What exact TLY is going on?" Keira answered, "The third possibility is that Dr. South's plan never arrived at Jake's hand. He's slandering me." Upon hearing this, Jalen glared angrily at Jake. Jake, however, seemed surprised at her response. He chuckled and said, "And we were in school, I didn't realize you had such a thick skin. Of course, I wouldn't accuse you without solid evidence." Jalen asked, "What evidence?" Jake pulled out his phone, opened a screenshot, and handed it to Jalen. "This is the plan that Dr. Sue sent to Isla last night. Isla was delayed due to an issue and forwarded it to me in the afternoon. From the timing, Dr. South's submission was earlier than Keira's. If that is not enough to clarify things, I have a witness." Keira narrowed her eyes. It turned out that the culprit was Jake, but Isla, she thought back carefully. Last night after work, she passed by the second floor of the inpatient department. At that time, Mrs. Olsen went in for an examination, and Isla had a stomach ache. So, Keira went tea with Mrs. Olsen instead. At that time, Keira's computer was left in the ward. But how? Could Isla know her computer's password? Keira clenched her fists slightly. "Nothing to say now, is there?" With a cold laugh, Jake said to the general manager, "This incident is absolutely appalling. The company must deal strictly with Keira. If necessary, we can call the police. After all, she dared to steal Dr. South's research. If Dr. South hears about this, I'm afraid he'll never work with Horton Group again." The general manager hastily spoke. "This scandal is also harmful to the company. Let's hold off on reporting it to the police. The administrative department has already left for the day. How about this? First thing Monday morning, we'll submit all the evidence to the administrative department to see what they decide." Jake didn't object. He looked at Keira and said suggestively, "Spend the next 2 days thinking hard. If you realize your mistake, you can come to me. If your apology is sincere, I may consider not publicizing this matter and treat it as a minor blunder. But of course, if you don't repent, don't blame me for not considering our past as classmates." Having dropped this hint, he and the general manager strode off. Once the two men had left, the members of Group 1 gathered around Keira. "There must be some misunderstanding here. Miss Olsen, did you ask Samuel Morgan for help?" Keira was touched that the team didn't blame her. "Don't worry, I'll prove my innocence." If she revealed her true identity and explained the situation, all the misunderstandings would be cleared up. However, Jalen didn't believe her the last time. The patent certificate and company seal that could prove her identity had been taken abroad by Samuel for a project. It seemed he would return next Monday. Thinking about this, she smiled and looked at her colleagues around her. By that time, their expressions would surely be humorous. After leaving work, Keira went to the underground parking lot. She got into the Bentley but didn't see Lewis. However, Tom was in the passenger seat. "Mr. Horton has a meeting to attend to. He'll leave later." Keira immediately said, "I can take a taxi." "You don't have to," Mr. Horton told me. To drop you off first. After Tom instructed the driver to start the car, he glanced at her, dissatisfied. Miss Olsen, you shouldn't rush things in your line of work. Dr. South is not someone you can interfere with casually. You created quite a stir in the R&D department. Keira raised an eyebrow in response, but remained silent. Tom continued. Don't think that being protected by old Mrs. Horton and the boss allows you to do anything you want. In the field of research, theft and plagiarism are the most intolerable. Keira pulled at her earphones, put them in her ears, and blocked out his voice. Tom was speechless. The car soon arrived at the hospital. As Keira was climbing up the stairs, she was stopped by Taylor on the second floor. Shirley wants to see you. She followed Taylor to Mrs. Olsen's ward. Mrs. Olsen was about to be discharged, and Aunt South had already packed her things but hadn't left. They were obviously waiting for Keira. Mrs. Olsen saw her come in and immediately asked, Keira, what's this about you stealing Dr. South's plan? I don't believe that's something you would do. Ch kaput anus ck out l kapum anus t kaput anus sent kaput anus v kaput anus l kapuanus on nav kaput anus elbin. C kaput anus. M. Taylor disdainfully said, with the evidence now at hand, Jake only gave her a warning because she's part of the Olsen family. What's there to not believe? Surely you trust her. Too much, I've said long ago that with the blood of Poppy Hill running through her veins, she can't be a good person. Mrs. Olsen shouted angrily, Shut up! Keira, speak up. What's going on? Mrs. Olsen's worried expression made Keira's eyes a little moist. She knew that Mrs. Olsen genuinely cared about her. Just as she was about to speak up, Isla acted as if she had been wronged. Keira, how could you be so foolish? I know you want to achieve something at Horton Group to earn more respect from old Mrs. Horton and Mr. Horton, but you can't just take whatever you want. If you wanted Dr. South's plan, you could have told me, and I would have given it to you. How could you steal it from my computer? Steal? Keira let out a old chuckle. As expected, Isla was behind everything. Taking a step forward, she asked, Who's the one who took things without asking? Isla put on a wronged face. What do you mean? Are you trying to have me cover up for you, or should tell people that your plan is the same as Dr. South's, and everything is just a coincidence? Keira calmly responded, Of course, it's not a coincidence. You obviously stole my plan. Nonsense. Taylor became so furious that he picked up a broom from the floor and started h-itting her. You made a mistake, and now you're trying to throw dirt on your sister. You deserve a beating. Mrs. Olsen immediately stopped him. Taylor, don't be so reckless. Taylor yelled, Shirley, did you hear that? She's so arrogant. An undergraduate student is claiming that such a complex plan from Dr. South is hers. It's just a joke, utterly ridiculous. She's simply not worth your concern. She'll have to bear the consequences of her own evil deeds. However, Mrs. Olsen said, But if Horton Group Cal LS the police, Keira could end up in jail. She took out her phone. It's really quite simple to deal with this matter. As long as Dr. South doesn't pursue it, it will be fine. I'll call South right now. With that, she dialed Dr. South through WhatsApp voice call. Chapter 41. Rejection. The mask of control begins to crack a lie built on borrowed authority crumbles at the worst possible moment, leaving Isla scrambling while Jake tightens his grip on the people he thinks he owns. What happened? This chapter is a masterclass in dramatic irony and quiet tension, where every character is operating under a different set of assumptions, and the cracks are starting to show. It opens with Isla's carefully constructed house of cards. She knows Mrs. Olsen's email password and has studied the correspondence patterns between Mrs. Olsen and Dr. South long enough to recognize that Dr. South responds to the Olsen matriarch with immediate deference. This observation gave her the audacity to fabricate a lie that Dr. South had accepted the Horton Group's invitation. But when she opens the actual reply email, her smile freezes. Dr. South's response is unambiguous. I'm only responsible for the Olsen family. I'm not required to deal with issues concerning the Horton Group. The rejection is clinical, final, and devastating. Isla, ever the actress, recovers quickly enough to lie to Jake's face, telling him Dr. South said it would take a few days. Jake, buoyed by the news, reveals something telling. He has a bet with Kay, catching himself before he finishes saying Keira's name. The slip hangs in the air like smoke. He's still thinking about her, still competing with her. We then cut to Jake returning home to the Horton family compound, where he receives rare praise from his father Oliver. The family dynamics are laid bare. Oliver's conditional affection, Melissa's tearful relief that her husband might stay home instead of visiting that woman, and the unspoken acknowledgement that Isla, despite old Mrs. Horton's contempt for her, has delivered something valuable. Jake's internal monologue reveals his twisted logic. Proposing to Isla and securing Dr. South was the correct first step. He's made his choice, but Keira had to be his. Meanwhile, Keira is unaware of all this scheming. She's deep in her work when Lewis silently brings her water, noticing her empty glass without being asked. Old Mrs. Horton watches them with barely concealed glee, already flipping through dictionaries and the book of songs to name her future great-grandchild. The domestic quiet is disrupted only by the Shiba Inu named Kitten, migrating from the old lady's side to sleep at Lewis's feet, a small but telling detail about the shifting allegiances in that household. The next day, Jake intercepts Keira at the R&D department with an invitation to an industry networking event. She declines without breaking stride. Jalen passes by, mocking Jake's transparent attempt to buy her favor. But Jake has already laid a trap. When Jalen tries to bring Keira to the event himself, he discovers his name has been removed from the invitation list. Jake struts out with champagne, reveling in his petty power play, telling Keira she can't even get through the door without his approval. Keira's response is glacial calm. She pulls out her phone, opens an invitation she already had from Samuel, and presents it to the staff member. The chapter ends with the promise that Keira has resources Jake doesn't know about, and she's not afraid to use them. Key moments, Isla opens Dr. South's email reply and realizes her lie has been exposed before it even took flight. Jake accidentally reveals his bet with Keira. Exposing his unresolved fixation on her Lewis silently brings Keira water without being asked, while old Mrs. Horton starts naming imaginary great-grandchildren. Jalen discovers Jake removed his name from the event invitation list. A clear power move. Keira counters Jake's gatekeeping by producing Samuel's personal invitation from her phone. Character development. This chapter deepens every character's contradictions in ways that make them feel frustratingly, beautifully human. Isla is the most complex figure here. She's simultaneously brilliant and desperate. She studied those emails with genuine intelligence, observed patterns, and crafted a strategy. But she's operating from a position of such profound insecurity that she can't admit when her plan fails. Her smile freezing when she reads Dr. South's reply is a moment of pure vulnerability that she immediately masks. She knows she's been caught, and instead of coming clean, she doubles down. There's something tragic about watching someone so capable choose deception because she doesn't believe her real self is enough. Jake continues to be the kind of antagonist you love to hate because he's so thoroughly convinced he's the hero of his own story. His slip, almost saying Keira's name when talking about his bet, reveals that his engagement to Isla is less about love and more about strategy and wounded pride. He's not moving forward, he's triangulating. He wants to have Keira while marrying Isla for tactical advantage. The line, having already made a choice, he wouldn't have regrets, reads less like conviction and more like a man trying to convince himself. His petty exclusion of Jalen from the event shows. He values control over competence, hierarchy over respect. He's the kind of leader who thinks authority comes from titles rather than trust. Keira, in contrast, operates with quiet competence. She doesn't boast about her connections. She doesn't even mention Samuel's invitation until she needs it. The moment where she gets into Lewis's car without awkwardness is a subtle but important beat. Their relationship is moving past the initial friction into something more comfortable. Old Mrs. Horton's delighted observation that she might see her great-grandchild soon adds a layer of comedic warmth to the otherwise tense chapter. The Shiba Inu choosing to sleep at Lewis's feet is the kind of small detail that tells us more about character than paragraphs of exposition could. My thoughts, this chapter is a clinic in how to build tension through what characters don't say. The email scene with Isla is breathtakingly effective because the reader knows exactly what's at stake. We've seen her fabricate this lie. We've watched her build her house of cards, And now, in real time, we see the email that shatters it. But she doesn't react the way we expect. She doesn't panic. She doesn't confess. She lies again asterisk, this time to everyone's face. The author trusts the reader to understand the weight of this moment without spelling it out. That's confident writing. I'm also struck by how this chapter manages to advance multiple plotlines without feeling scattered. We have Isla's crumbling deception, Jake's continued obsession, Keira and Lewis's growing domestic comfort, old Mrs. Horton's scheming grandmother energy, and Jalen's professional humiliation, all in one chapter. The tonal shifts work because they're anchored by Keira's calm, grounded perspective. She's the eye of the storm, and watching her navigate these men who think they can control her is deeply satisfying. The scene where Lewis silently fetches water for Keira is small but devastating in context. He's been burned, he's in pain, he endured it without complaint, and yet his first instinct is still to notice her needs. The Shiba Inu sleeping at his feet is the narrative's way of telling us he's been accepted into this little family. Compare that to Jake, who uses invitations as weapons, or Oliver, who withholds affection as leverage. Lewis shows care through action, not performance. It's a quiet rebuke to every other man in this story. The final moment, Keira pulling out Samuel's invitation, is the kind of payoff that makes you want to cheer. Jake thinks he's holding all the cards because he controls one door. He doesn't realize Keira has a master key. Her calm, is that so? Before producing evidence of her own connections is a masterclass in understated power. She doesn't gloat. She doesn't explain. She just shows the staff member her phone and lets the truth do the work. That's how you win a scene. #rating *****4. 85 what happens next. The tension is ratcheting beautifully. Dr. South's rejection means Isla's lie will eventually collapse, and when it does, the fallout will be catastrophic, not just for her engagement to Jake, but for Jake's position at Horton Group and his bet with Keira. The question is how long she can maintain the facade and what she'll do when Jake pressures her for results. Keira attending the event with Samuel's invitation opens up fascinating possibilities. Samuel is clearly connected and influential. His presence at this industry gathering could lead to encounters that reshape the power dynamics, perhaps even a run-in with Dr. South if he's actually attending. There's also the unresolved thread of why old Mrs. Horton detests Isla so much, and whether there's history there that will complicate the marriage. And then there's Lewis. He's quietly becoming a more central presence in Keira's life. His injury, his resilience, his silent care, something is building. Old Mrs. Horton is already naming babies. The question is whether Keira and Lewis are moving toward each other intentionally or whether circumstances will force them together before they're ready. Final verdict: this chapter is the story's pivot point. The lies are multiplying, the alliances are shifting, and the characters are being forced to show their true colors under pressure. Isla's desperation is becoming more desperate, Jake's control is becoming more brittle, and Keira's quiet competence is becoming more visible. The writing is confident and economical, trusting the reader to catch the subtext in every interaction. What makes this chapter exceptional is how it balances high-stakes deception with genuine warmth. The Shiba Inu at Lewis's feet, old Mrs. Horton with her baby name books, Lewis fetching water without being asked. These small beats remind us that even in a world of corporate betrayal and romantic manipulation, kindness still matters. And that kindness, in this story, might just be the most dangerous weapon of all. To listen full and free the next chapter, please access the website novelsaudio.com and search keywords "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" or click the link in the description of this video. Chapter 42. Humiliation. When the tables turn, Keira shows up to the industry banquet with nothing but a mysterious invitation and her own quiet confidence, only to find herself and her boss Jalen shoved aside by the very people who should be networking with them. But when the enigmatic Samuel Morgan arrives and completely bypasses the pretty couple vying for his attention to greet Keira instead, the social hierarchy implodes in the most satisfying way possible. What happened? This chapter is a masterclass in social dynamics and the quiet power of being underestimated. It opens with Keira attempting to enter the banquet, only to be challenged by Jake Horton, who cannot fathom how someone like her could possibly possess a legitimate invitation. The moment he sees her invitation bears only her name with no corporate title attached, his confusion deepens, but Keira dismisses him with the verbal equivalent of a shrug. It's a small victory, but it sets the tone for everything that follows. Once inside, Jalen reveals himself to be far more human than his earlier arrogance suggested. He admits that he doesn't actually hate nepotism. He hates inept people coasting on connections. There's something disarmingly honest about this confession. He even sheepishly admits he plans to go crying to his cousin for backup, which is such an unexpected moment of vulnerability from a character who initially seemed so rigid. Jalen then tries to champion Keira by introducing her to Mr. King, an industry veteran, setting her up with a glowing recommendation about the problem she solved for him. Enter Isla and Jake, the golden couple of this little drama. Isla, dressed in blue with her arm linked through Jake's, effortlessly steals the spotlight. The crowd gravitates toward her, bombarding her with questions about Dr. South, her family's advisor. She and Jake then approach Keira with thinly veiled condescension, suggesting Keira might need help being introduced to Samuel Morgan. Jake even mocks the idea that Keira could approach someone as discerning as Samuel, implying she'd have to resort to seduction to get anywhere. And then Samuel arrives. The crowd surges toward him. Isla and Jake position themselves for their moment. Isla calls out to him, and he looks up, only to lock eyes on Keira behind them. He literally walks past them, through their prepared introduction, straight to Keira, asking with genuine warmth, "What are you doing here?" The silence that follows must have been deafening for Jake and Isla. Key moments. Jake's disbelief when he sees Keira's invitation carries no corporate affiliation, only her name, signaling she's someone worth knowing in her own right. Jalen's unexpected confession that he doesn't hate nepotism, just incompetence, and his admission he'll ask his cousin for help. Isla and Jake's calculated interruption of Jalen's introduction, redirecting all attention to themselves. Samuel Morgan's arrival and the crowd's immediate gravitation toward him. The ultimate humiliation. Samuel bypassing Isla and Jake entirely to greet Keira with familiarity and excitement. Character development. Keira continues to be an intriguing protagonist precisely because she never seems to need validation from anyone. She doesn't gloat when Jake challenges her at the door. She doesn't explain herself. She simply turns off her phone screen and walks in. That quiet confidence is rare in fiction and handled beautifully here. She holds her power close, revealing nothing, and lets events unfold around her without scrambling for control. Even when Jalen tries to push her toward Samuel, she seems almost amused, not desperate. Jalen is the surprise of this chapter. Initially portrayed as a by-the-book executive who hates nepotism, he reveals himself to be more complicated than that. He hates useless nepotism, not nepotism itself. He's pragmatic enough to use his connections when needed, but genuine enough to admit it openly. His decision to champion Keira at the banquet shows growth, or at least reveals a fundamental decency that wasn't immediately obvious. He's willing to put his own reputation on the line to elevate someone he believes in. Isla and Jake serve their roles as antagonists perfectly, but what stands out is how brittle their confidence proves to be. They need the crowd. They need acknowledgement. Without external validation, their power crumbles. Samuel walking past them dismantles their entire social standing in one casual stride, and you can almost feel the panic they must be experiencing. They built their strategy around being the center of attention, and in 3 seconds, Samuel Morgan made them irrelevant. My thoughts. This chapter delivers on tension and payoff in a way that feels earned. The setup is classic. The overlooked underdog arrives at an event where everyone dismisses her potential, but the execution avoids feeling predictable. What makes it work is the pacing. The author allows the humiliation of Isla and Jake to build slowly. We see them steal the spotlight, mock Keira, position themselves triumphantly. The higher they rise in that moment, the more satisfying their fall becomes. The dialogue is sharp, especially in the power dynamics. Isla's offer to introduce Keira to Samuel is dripping with condescension disguised as helpfulness. Jake's jab about Keira trying to seduce Samuel is meant to wound, but it backfires spectacularly when it becomes clear she doesn't need to seduce anyone. She's already known to him. The contrast between how the crowd treats Isla because of her association with Dr. South versus how Samuel treats Keira, because of who she is to him, highlights the difference between borrowed status and genuine connection. I also appreciate that the author didn't overplay the reveal. Samuel doesn't make a grand speech. He doesn't publicly humiliate Isla and Jake, he just walks past them. That's infinitely more effective than any dramatic confrontation would have been. The silence, the confusion, the dawning horror on their faces, it's all left to the reader's imagination, which makes it more powerful. Rating *******4. 8.5 What happens next? The immediate question is what Samuel and Keira will say to each other now that all eyes are on them. Isla and Jake will likely scramble to recover, possibly trying to spin the situation in their favor. Jalen's reaction will be interesting too. He's clearly shocked by this turn of events and will have questions. More broadly, Keira's relationship with Samuel is becoming harder to hide, which means whatever secrets she's keeping might start unraveling. And given the crowd's obsession with Dr. South, there's bound to be more social maneuvering ahead. Final verdict: this chapter delivers one of the most satisfying social humiliations I've read in recent memory. It's not cruel or petty, it simply allows the chips to fall where they may, and the arrogant characters are left holding the short end. Keira's quiet confidence, Jalen's surprising depth, and Samuel's dramatic entrance all come together to create a chapter that feels both tense and cathartic. The writing is tight, the dialogue cuts where it needs to, and the emotional payoff is exactly what readers are hoping for. A standout chapter that reinforces why this story works. To listen full and free the next chapter, please access the website Novelsaudio.com and search keywords "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" or click the link in the description of this video. Chapter 43. Identity. When the mask slips, even a billionaire plays bodyguard the moment Samuel Morgan, one of the most powerful men in the industry, nearly trips over himself to greet a 20-something woman like she's royalty. You know something's up. And trust me, everybody in that banquet hall knows it too. But what follows is a masterclass in tension, hidden identities, and Lewis Horton showing up like a thundercloud ready to rain on everyone's parade. What happened? Let me set the scene for you. There's a high society gathering at the Royal Hotel, everyone dressed to impress, champagne flowing, networking at full throttle. And then Samuel Morgan, a man who apparently holds himself aloof at these things, too important for small talk, spots Keira and suddenly becomes the most animated person in the room. You can practically feel the whiplash. The other guests are stunned. Isla's clenching her fists so hard I'm surprised she doesn't draw blood. Jake is frowning like he's trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with his eyebrows. And poor Samuel realizes he's almost blown his boss's cover when Keira shoots him a warning look that could freeze champagne. He backtracks fast, playing it off as enthusiasm for her beauty, and the crowd buys it. Mr. King, bless his diplomatic soul, even manages to compliment everyone at once, Keira, Jake, and the mysterious Dr. South, without stepping on any toes. But here's the thing. Samuel's gaze keeps drifting back to Keira, and Jalen notices. When Keira slips away to the balcony, Jalen follows, and that's when it gets really interesting. He asks what she thinks of Samuel, and she gives a perfectly professional answer. Dependable, hardworking, trustworthy, which Jalen completely misreads as romantic interest. Before she can correct him, Lewis Horton appears out of nowhere like a jealous ghost, looking like he wants to strangle someone. Lewis's reaction is priceless. He scolds Jalen like a child. "Miss Olsen is already married. What are you messing around here for? It's absurd." And Jalen, bless his oblivious heart, immediately worries if Samuel knows Keira is married. The whole exchange is awkward, hilarious, and loaded with unspoken tension. Back in the banquet hall, Jake tries to grill Samuel about whether Keira knows Dr. South. Samuel does some quick thinking, if he says yes. The entire room would mob Keira for answers, so he lies. And when Samuel chases after Keira at the exit, claiming he needs to report to her about company matters, Jalen's brain finally catches up. His look says it all, and Keira, bless her, finally sighs and admits the truth. "Okay, I admit it. I am Dr. South." Key moments. Samuel Morgan breaks character to greet Keira with genuine excitement, instantly marking her as someone important. Keira's warning look and Samuel's quick recovery. Establishing hierarchy without words, Lewis Horton overhearing Jalen ask Keira about her feelings for Samuel. leading to a territorial explosion. Samuel's lie to protect Keira's identity from Jake and Isla's prying questions, Samuel reporting to Keira about his business trip, which finally tips Jalen off character development. This chapter is basically a masterclass in how Keira operates. She doesn't flaunt her power, she lets it speak through others. When Samuel almost blows her cover, she doesn't panic, doesn't raise her voice, just a look and he falls in line. That's not just authority, that's the kind of respect you earn when you've built something real. She's comfortable in her skin, even when everyone's staring. The balcony scene shows she'd rather be anywhere else than at this gala, and honestly, I respect that energy. The real fireworks come from Lewis Horton, though. We've seen him as the calm, collected businessman, but watching him overhear that conversation about Keira and Samuel, his reaction is raw, almost teenage-in. It's intensity. He's half a head taller than Jalen, and at this moment looking like he wants to commit violence over a misunderstanding. The text says his words made him feel inexplicably uncomfortable, but we all know what that really means, don't we? He's jealous. And the way he immediately orchestrates their escape, I'm ready to leave. Are you coming with me? Shows he's not just protective, he's possessive in the best possible way. Jalen serves as our audience surrogate, piecing things together slowly but surely. He's genuinely worried about Samuel's feelings, which shows good character, but watching him realize that Keira is Dr. South is going to be delicious. The man is about to have his entire worldview recalibrated. My thoughts, okay? Can we talk about the romantic tension in this chapter? Because it's * chef's kiss. Lewis showing up on that balcony like he's been summoned by the universe to cockblock any potential misunderstanding. I was literally grinning. And the fact that he doesn't even explain himself, just stands there looking sinister and scolds Jalen, that's peak grumpy husband behavior. I love how the author uses proximity and physical description, half a head taller, expression dark, black eyes cold, to convey his emotional state without a single internal monologue. We * feel his jealousy through his posture. The chapter also does something clever with the power dynamics. Keira could reveal herself at any moment and shut down every conversation, but she chooses not to. She lets Samuel handle it. She lets people underestimate her, and when she finally tells Jalen the truth, it's almost like she's giving up a secret she's tired of keeping. There's something almost vulnerable about that sigh before she admits, I am Dr. South. Like she's bracing for the world to change, but what really works here is the pacing. We go from public tension, Samuel's slip-up, to private conversation balcony, to confrontational interruption, Lewis to escape, leaving together, to final revelation, the truth comes out. Each scene shifts the energy, and the chapter ends on a punchline that makes you desperate for the next chapter. It's efficient, it's satisfying, and it's exactly the kind of payoff readers have been waiting for. Rating *******4. 8.5 half a star off, only because I wanted Lewis and Keira's reunion to last a little longer before Jalen inserted himself. But honestly, that's just me being greedy for more of their dynamic. What happens next? The truth bomb is about to go off. Jalen now knows Keira is Dr. South, which means the Horton family will likely find out soon. I'm predicting either Lewis's grandmother already knows, she seems like the type who would, or she's about to have a very interesting conversation with Keira. Meanwhile, Samuel is heading abroad, leaving the field open for more Lewis-Keira moments. But here's what I'm really waiting for. Isla and Jake's reaction when they find out Keira is the most sought-after doctor in the industry. The last time we saw them, they were breathing sighs of relief that she wasn't * connected to Dr. South. Oh, the irony is going to be * delicious *. Final verdict: this chapter is the turning point where Keira's carefully maintained double life begins to crack, and the author handles it with perfect dramatic timing. Samuel's near miss, Lewis's jealous intervention, and Jalen's slow burn realization all build toward that final confession. It's a chapter about identity, yes, but more importantly, it's about who gets to know the real you and why. Keira's world is about to get a lot more complicated, and I am absolutely here for it. To listen full and free the next chapter, please access the website Audio.com and search keywords My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire or click the link in the description of this video. Chapter 44. When the truth fits like a bad bandage. When Keira casually drops the bombshell that she is Dr. South, The skepticism that follows is almost comical, until the real tension kicks in and we're treated to a masterclass in awkward car rides, territorial cousin behavior, and a family secret dangling by a thread. What happened? This chapter opens with a delicious irony. Keira tells the truth, and nobody believes her. Jalen's reaction is priceless. He actually laughs, convinced she's joking, then pivots straight to accusing her of having an affair with Samuel. The logic leap is wild, but it tells us everything about how Jalen's mind works. He's sharp enough to sense some things. Off but too entrenched in his assumptions to accept the unbelievable. Then Lewis strides in like a walking frost warning, and Jalen immediately wilts. The family dynamic is crystal clear here. Lewis holds the power, and Jalen knows it. What follows is a beautifully petty exchange where Lewis, after warning Keira not to get in a stranger's car after drinking, proceeds to abandon his own cousin to take a cab. The hypocrisy is delicious, and I snorted at Jalen's silent suffering. But the real fireworks happen in the Bentley. Keira agrees to change Lewis's bandages, and the scene shifts into something charged and intimate. She's kneeling, reaching around him, and then, *whoosh*, the car swerves and she falls. Into him, her lips brush his shoulder. His breath catches. The air in the car becomes thick enough to cut with a knife. Lewis, the man who commands boardrooms and acquisitions, completely short-circuits over a graze of skin. He bolts from the car the moment they arrive, leaving Keira baffled and asking Tom if he lost money on his deal. Oh, sweet, oblivious Keira. And just when you think the chapter is winding down, Finley appears with shifty eyes and a pocketful of secrets. Keira dangles money, he takes the bait, and the door to something huge cracks open. Key moments. Keira tells Jalen she's Dr. South, and he laughs in her face. Pivoting to accusations of infidelity. Lewis shuts Jalen down with a death glare and 2 words, "You talk too much." Lewis abandons his own cousin to take a cab after lecturing Keira about stranger danger. The car swerves mid-bandage change, Keira falls into Lewis, and her lips brush his shoulder, sending him into full flight mode. Finley resurfaces, and Keira pays him a deposit for the truth about her past. Character development. This chapter peels back layers on everyone involved. Keira continues to fascinate because she's so comfortable in her own skin. She doesn't flaunt her identity as Dr. South, but she also doesn't hide it. When Jalen refuses to believe her, she doesn't push or get defensive, she just accepts his disbelief with a shrug. That's a woman who knows her worth and doesn't need external validation. Her handling of Finley also shows she's no pushover. She's strategic, dangling money like bait and setting clear terms. She's not desperate for the truth, she's methodical. Lewis, meanwhile, is having a quiet crisis. The bandage scene is the most vulnerable we've seen him. He's usually all sharp lines and colder calculations, but here he's undone by a simple touch. His physical reaction, stiffening, breath hitching, mind going blank, reveals a man wildly unprepared for genuine intimacy. When he bolts from the car and loosens his tie, it's not anger, it's panic. The controlled billionaire is losing control of his own emotions, and he doesn't know what to do with that. Tom's internal eye roll at Keira's question about the negotiation tells us everything. The deal went great. Lewis's mood has nothing to do with money and everything to do with the woman in his backseat. Jalen gets fleshed out too. He's not just comic relief. His suspicion about Keira's identity shows he's observant, but his immediate leap to affair reveals his own biases. He's protective of family reputation in a way that feels genuine, even if his delivery is clumsy. My thoughts. This chapter is a masterclass in tension management. The author balances 3 distinct threads: the identity reveal that falls flat, the charged physical encounter, and the looming family secret, and weaves them together seamlessly. The pacing is exquisite. We go from light humor, Jalen's disbelief, Lewis abandoning him, to simmering heat, the car scene, to ominous stakes, Finley's truth, without ever feeling whiplashed. The bandage scene is the standout. It's so effective because of what's left unsaid. The dialogue is minimal. The descriptions are focused on physical sensations, her soft hands, his stiffening body, the crawl of ants from shoulder to limbs. The author trusts the reader to feel the electricity without spelling it out. And Lewis's reaction afterward? Perfect. He doesn't confess his feelings, doesn't make a grand gesture, he just flees. It's honest and human and makes me root for him even more. I also love the quiet humor threaded throughout. Tom's internal commentary, Jalen's abandoned figure watching the Bentley disappear, Keira's genuine confusion about why Lewis is grumpy. These moments keep the chapter from becoming too heavy and remind us that this story has heart. The Finley subplot landing right at the end is a gut punch. Just when we're caught up in the romantic tension, the author yanks us back to the mystery. It's a reminder that this story is about more than chemistry. There's a dark past waiting to be unearthed. #rating ********4. 85 # what happens next. Finley's about to spill something huge, and my money is on a family connection between Keira and the Horton family that goes deeper than anyone realizes. The way he emphasized it's related to you makes me think Keira's parentage or her mother's past is about to be rewritten. Also, Lewis's reaction to the car incident can't stay bottled up forever. He's going to either pull away completely or crash headfirst into whatever this is. And Jalen. He's not done digging. He senses something, and he's not the type to let go of a mystery. Final verdict: this chapter fires on all cylinders: humor, heat, and high stakes. The character work is sharp, the romantic tension is palpable, and the mystery is deepening in all the right ways. The author knows exactly when to tighten the screws and when to let us breathe. If this chapter is any indication, the story is barreling toward something explosive, and I'm strapped in for the ride. To listen full and free to the next chapter, please access the website novelsaudio.com and search keywords "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" or click the link in the description of this video. To listen full and free the next chapter, please access the website novelsaudio.com and search keywords "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" or click the link in the description of this video. Chapter 45. Family. When desperation meets decency, two women, one truth dangling by a thread, and a dying girl abandoned by everyone who should love her. This chapter delivers the kind of raw, gut-punching drama that makes you forget to breathe. What happened? The chapter opens with a moment that should have been explosive. Finley is about to spill something crucial about Keira, something connected to the Olsen family, something he thinks is worth $100,000. But before those words can leave his mouth, Isla comes storming in like a wrecking ball, disheveled and furious from her party dress escape. The tension between these three is palpable. Isla has already been paying Finley off, clearly terrified of whatever secret he holds over her head. But now Keira has been offered the same information, and Isla is desperate enough to promise him even more money to keep it buried. The deadbeat uncle scurries off with his $30,000 loan, leaving the two women in an uneasy standoff. Then the story pivots, and we get something far more devastating. A phone call comes through for Isla. Jake Horton wants connections to the Allen family. It's the kind of crumb that keeps Isla chasing her delusions of marrying into wealth, while she's completely blind to the human suffering unfolding right in front of her. Because in the hospital corridor, we witness something that should never happen. A mother and son, discussing the fate of the son's wife like she's livestock. The wife needs a $70,000 surgery, and instead of selling the house she brought into the marriage, they decide to let her die. The mother's logic is chillingly practical: keep the house, let her go, find a new wife with wider hips for childbearing. And the son, after a moment of hesitation, agrees. That wife is Rebecca Allen, standing right there, having heard everything. She's so weak she can barely stand, but she has enough strength left to beg for help. She grabs Isla's leg, and Isla recoils like she's been touched by something diseased. No sympathy, no humanity, just disgust. But Keira steps forward. She gets Rebecca's brother's number, makes the call. Turns out Frankie Allen is already in Oceanian for work. He'll be there in half an hour. And Keira plants herself as a wall between Rebecca and the monsters who call themselves family. Key moments. Finley almost reveals the truth about Keira and the Olsen family before Isla interrupts. Isla promises to pay Finley more money to keep the secret. Showing her desperation, the mother and son casually plot to let their daughter-in-law die rather than pay for her surgery. Rebecca overhears their plan and collapses, grabbing Isla's leg for help. And Isla kicks her away. Keira intervenes, calls Frankie Allen, and refuses to let Rebecca be taken home to die. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing who people really are when they think nobody's watching. Isla continues to be a study in shallowness. She's so consumed by her own ambitions, marrying Jake, keeping secrets buried, climbing the social ladder, that she can't see genuine suffering when it's literally clinging to her leg. Her disgust at Rebecca's touch reveals a fundamental lack of empathy that's more damning than any villainous monologue could be. Keira, on the other hand, keeps proving why she's the heart of this story. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't calculate whether intervening is worth the trouble. She sees a dying woman and acts. There's something almost surgical about her efficiency. Get the phone number, make the call, state the facts, stand her ground. No grand speeches, no self-congratulation. Just quiet, determined decency. And Rebecca, God, Rebecca. She's the cautionary tale that Isla probably thinks she's too smart to become. A woman from a good family who gave everything for love, only to find herself discarded when she's no longer useful. Her regret is devastatingly real. She knows she was wrong. She wants to see her brother, her parents. The tears rolling down her face as she recites that phone number feel earned, not manipulative. She's not playing a victim. She's a woman facing the consequences of her choices and begging for a second chance. The mother and son are written with chilling realism. The mother's practicality is monstrous, but it's the kind of monstrous that exists in the real world. The son's quick capitulation, his sudden interest in the blind date once the financial calculation shifted, it's nauseating because it's believable. Hash my thoughts. I need a moment after reading this. That conversation between the mother and son about letting Rebecca die, I had to put my phone down. It's not the kind of evil that comes with mustache twirling. It's the ordinary, everyday evil of people who see a person as a transaction. The mother talking about wasted youth and compensation while her daughter-in-law is dying in the next room, that's the stuff that sticks with you. And Isla, I already didn't like her, but this chapter solidified something. She's not just ambitious or selfish. She's morally bankrupt. Rebecca grabbing her leg was the universe handing her a chance to be a decent human being, and she kicked it away. The fact that she then goes straight back to scheming about the Horton family and the Allen family, completely untouched by what she just witnessed, that's sociopathic behavior. Keira, though, she's becoming my favorite kind of protagonist. She doesn't monologue about justice. She doesn't posture. She just does the right thing, quietly and firmly. The way she steps out of the shadows, the simple command of phone number, the way she makes that call with no drama, it's powerful precisely because it's understated. She's not trying to be a hero. She's just refusing to let someone die alone and abandoned. The timing of this chapter is also brilliant. We're left hanging on the edge of Finley's revelation. What is he about to tell Keira? And then we're thrown into this completely different, equally urgent crisis. The pacing keeps you off balance, and that's exactly what good serial storytelling should do. Rating ******4. 8.5 What happens next? Frankie Allen is on his way, and he sounds like a man who will not be calm when he arrives. The name Allen was already mentioned by Jake earlier. His uncle wants to sign a contract with them. So Frankie Allen is connected to a family that the Hortons desperately need. That means Rebecca's rescue could have ripple effects far beyond this hospital corridor. Isla is going to realize very quickly that she just stood by while the sister of a powerful businessman was dying. She's going to panic. And Keira, who made the call and intervened, is going to be the one who gets the credit. This could shift the power dynamics significantly, but I'm also worried about Finley. He's out there with Keira's $30,000 and a secret that both Isla and Keira want. Secrets that powerful usually don't stay buried, and the longer he floats around, the more danger he's in, especially with Isla getting increasingly desperate. Final verdict. This is the kind of chapter that reminds you why you fell in love with serialized storytelling in the first place. It balances high-stakes mystery with raw human drama, giving us a complete emotional arc that still leaves threads dangling for next time. Keira's intervention saves a life, but more importantly, it reveals character, hers, Isla's, and the ugliness that money and ambition can breed in people who choose themselves over everyone else. A standout chapter that deepens the novel's moral complexity while delivering genuine tension. To listen full and free the next chapter, please access the website novelaudio.com and search keywords "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" or click the link in the description of this video. Chapter 46. Arrival. When saving a life becomes a battle against greed, a woman gasps for air on a hospital floor, her husband and mother-in-law circling like vultures waiting for her to die, when a stranger steps in to fight for her life against all odds. What happened? This chapter drops us right into the gut-wrenching climax of Rebecca's medical crisis, and honestly, I had to put my phone down twice while reading it. We open with Rebecca's tearful question about her brother, and what follows is a devastating flashback that explains how a wealthy, pampered daughter ended up scrubbing floors for a man who would later let her die over $70,000. Rebecca's backstory hits like a freight train. She met her husband in college, ignored her family's objections, eloped to Oceanian, and spent 2 years playing housewife at her mother-in-law's insistence. Her brother made her promise not to reveal the family wealth for 2 years as a test. That test is about to cost her everything. The irony is so sharp it cuts. She learned to cook, clean, and shine floors thinking it would prove her love, while her mother cried knowing her daughter was degrading herself. The scene in the hospital hallway is masterfully crafted chaos. Keira, having already called Rebecca's brother, is trying to perform CPR while the husband screams that his wife doesn't want resuscitation. But we all know the truth. He's lying through his teeth to avoid paying for treatment. The mother-in-law starts screaming for security, accusing Keira of tampering with a corpse when Rebecca isn't even dead yet. The crowd starts turning against Keira, and Isla chimes in with her sanctimonious, "You can't morally kidnap others" speech, which made me want to reach through the page. But here's where this chapter becomes unforgettable. Keira's hair is being yanked, she's being pinched, security is coming, and she just keeps doing chest compressions. She won't stop. Not for the screaming, not for the lies, not for the growing mob of people telling her she's wrong. And then, just as hope seems lost, the luxury cars pull into the parking lot. Key moments. Rebecca's heartbreaking flashback reveals she's from a wealthy family, but kept it secret as a test of her husband's love. The husband's monstrous true colors emerge when he refuses resuscitation for his dying wife. The mother-in-law orchestrates a public spectacle, screaming and crying to manipulate bystanders against Keira. Keira dislocates the husband's arm in a desperate physical confrontation to save Rebecca Frankie. Alan arrives with bodyguards just as the situation reaches breaking point. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing character through crisis. Rebecca's arc is the most tragic and revealing. She went from a pampered treasure of her family to a woman who believed scrubbing floors was love. Her moment of clarity, "I was degrading myself," is devastating because it comes too late. She's drowning in the realization that she gave up everything for a man who sees her as a burden worth $70,000. The chapter forces us to sit with her pain and her choices, and it's uncomfortable and necessary. Keira, on the other hand, becomes something almost mythic here. She's not just stubborn, she's relentless in a way that borders on obsessive. Even with her scalp burning and her arms aching from CPR, she refuses to let Rebecca die. There's something deeply personal in her fight here. This isn't just about saving a stranger. Keira is fighting against every person who has ever been abandoned by those who should love them. She's fighting for the principle that a life has value beyond what someone is willing to pay. The husband reveals himself as a full-fledged villain in this chapter, and his development feels eerily realistic. He starts with cold, calculated lies about his wife's wishes, then shifts to crocodile tears about being useless when the crowd turns sympathetic. He knows exactly how to play the victim. The mother-in-law is no better. She's the architect of this horror, the one who turned Rebecca into a servant and now wants her dead to avoid hospital bills. Together, they represent the ugliest version of family, love conditioned on convenience. My thoughts. This chapter made me genuinely angry in the best possible way. The author has constructed a scenario that feels ripped from real life. How many stories have we heard of someone being denied medical care by family members who just don't want the financial burden? The $70,000 figure is such a brutal, specific detail. It's not an impossible sum. It's not millions. It's an amount that, for Rebecca's family, is pocket change she was hiding to protect her husband's ego. What I love most about this chapter is how the author uses the hospital setting as a microcosm of society's cruelty. The bystanders who turn on Keira, the security guards who hesitate, the head nurse caught between protocol and morality, they all feel real. Isla's commentary, dripping with faux wisdom about moral kidnapping, perfectly captures how people justify inaction by pretending to be practical. It's easier to let someone die than to fight for them. The physicality of this chapter is also worth praising. I could feel Keira's hair being pulled, her arms shaking through the chest compressions, the anger burning in her chest. The author doesn't let us escape into abstractions. We're in that hallway, smelling the antiseptic and hearing the screaming. And that final image of Frankie Allen jumping out of a luxury car before it even stops. Perfect. Cinematic timing. I actually said, finally, out loud. #rating ********4. 85 # what happens next. The arrival of Frankie Allen and his bodyguards changes the entire power dynamic. Given Rebecca's hidden wealth, the husband and mother-in-law have just made the biggest mistake of their miserable lives. I'm expecting Frankie to unleash chaos on these people, the kind of wealthy fury that makes hospital security suddenly very cooperative. The question is whether Rebecca will survive long enough to see justice. And now that Keira has personally saved her and taken a beating for it, I suspect a powerful new ally has entered her life. The husband's lies are about to unravel in spectacular fashion. Final verdict. This chapter is the emotional and narrative peak of the arc so far, delivering gut-punch revelations about Rebecca's past while showcasing Keira's unwavering moral compass in a world that would rather look away. The pacing is relentless, the villainy is deliciously hateable, and the cliffhanger is executed perfectly. It's the kind of chapter that reminds you why you fell in love with reading in the first place, for moments where someone fights like hell for what's right, even when everyone tells them to stop. To listen full and free the next chapter, please access the website novelsaudio.com and search keywords "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" or click the link in the description of this video. Chapter 57. Samuel Morgan is here. The weight of lies and the shadow of a savior. Hello, dear readers. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Welcome back to our journey through the twists and turns of My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews. Today, we're diving into a chapter that will leave you holding your breath. A chapter filled with betrayal, manipulation, and the sudden arrival of a man whose presence changes everything. Let's step into Chapter 57 together. Keira slowly laid down her phone, her movements deliberate and calm. She finally raised her head to look at the crowd gathered before her, a sea of faces twisted with suspicion, accusation, and pity. Her biological mother was setting her up. Poppy, the woman who gave her life, was actively destroying her reputation, her career, and her future. Keira knew she should have felt something: sadness, anger, betrayal. But right now, she only felt a deep, hollow numbness that had settled into her bones over years of mistreatment. She had gotten used to it. The cruel irony. Was that the worse she got treated, the more she understood one simple truth. As long as it served Isla's interests, Poppy would stop at nothing. Her mother's love had an expiration date, and it had long passed, replaced by a devotion to Isla that bordered on obsession. Keira's gaze swept coldly past Poppy and landed on Isla. She was genuinely curious. What had Isla done to charm Poppy so completely? What dark magic had this woman used to turn a mother against her own flesh and blood? But Keira didn't say anything. She knew that until Samuel came to help verify her identity, no words she spoke would matter. These people had already made up their minds. They wanted a villain and they had chosen her. So she remained silent. But even in her silence, someone spoke for her. Jalen's voice cut through the tension, dripping with arrogant defiance. What kind of direct evidence is this? Based on that video, you can only see that Keira's mother copied something from Isla's computer. What exactly did she copy? Who knows? Jake snorted, his voice sharp as broken glass. Isla is the one responsible for delivering Dr. South's solution to me. Keira's mom copied something from her, and then Keira submitted a solution identical to Dr. South's. Doesn't this explain everything? Jalen, even if you want to protect Keira, you should show some restraint. Jalen stood his ground, his jaw tight. Protect her? I'm just stating my doubts. This evidence can't directly prove that it was Keira who ordered her mother to steal. And then, as if on cue, Poppy dramatically cried out from where she was kneeling on the floor. That's right, it wasn't Keira who told me to steal. It was my own idea. It has nothing to do with Keira. It's all my fault. She grabbed the arm of the head of the administrative department, her grip desperate. Please don't involve Keira in this. My daughter has just graduated from university. She can't lose this job. The head of the administrative department sighed, looking down at Poppy with something between pity and frustration. What? Did you steal? Poppy immediately replied, it's the new energy solution for hydrogen fuel. The department head nodded slowly. Do you know what hydrogen fuel is? Poppy froze, her eyes darting nervously. She shook her head. The department head pressed on, his voice growing colder. You see, even I don't understand what it is, and I'm not even in research and development. Therefore, if your daughter didn't tell you what to steal, then how were you able to steal for her? Poppy seemed to be rendered speechless. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Finally, she bowed her head in defeat. I don't care. I did this. It has nothing to do with my daughter. Call the police. Take me away. It's my fault. The head of the administrative department sighed deeply, looking at Poppy with nothing but regret and pity. Jake watched the scene unfold. He should have really disliked this woman, but seeing her sacrifice everything for her own daughter stirred something uncomfortable in his chest. He couldn't help but feel sympathy. And then he exploded. Keira, say something. Are you really planning to let your mom take the fall? Do you even know the basic principle of being a daughter? Do you have any conscience at all? The head of the administrative department added coldly, Vice President Horton, don't worry. My department will get to the bottom of this. The Horton Group will not wrong any mother, nor will we tolerate an ungrateful employee. Keira knew it would be like this. Every time she tried to deny their accusations, it only made them more suspicious. She let out a soft, bitter laugh. This was definitely not over yet, and indeed, Isla stepped forward with a dramatic sigh, her expression one of false sympathy. Aunt Hill, you may want to take all the blame, but it's impossible. Nobody here is a fool. We all know what's going on. The best way now is to admit your mistake and beg the Horton Group for forgiveness. Otherwise, Keira will be expelled from her university. Is that so? Poppy looked desperately at the head of the administrative department. He nodded solemnly. Yes, we have our own judgment, and we can see that you're covering up for your daughter. Poppy dropped to the ground as if all strength had left her body. But then, as if struck by sudden inspiration, she crawled on her knees to Keira and grabbed her leg. Keira, there is no way around it. Just admit your mistakes. As long as you admit your mistakes, the Horton Group will give you a chance. Even if they fire you, you still have your qualifications, and you can find another job. But if you don't get expelled from school, your future will be ruined. She seemed to be in severe pain and even squeezed a few tears out of her eyes. But in a place where others couldn't see, her eyes turned vicious, cold, calculating, and utterly devoid of maternal love. Keira looked down at her mother kneeling in front of her and found the whole scene absurd. In the past, Poppy had always been straightforward, with her forcing her to give in to Isla, demanding sacrifice after sacrifice. But now, she had become an actress. Did Isla teach her that? Poppy continued whimpering. I'll admit the mistake for Keira. As her mother, I'll kneel and apologize to you all. I hope you can give her another chance and hope that the school won't expel her. She actually kowtowed several times, her forehead hitting the floor with thuds that made everyone wince. What a good mother indeed. The head of the administrative department rushed over, desperately trying to help Poppy up. But Poppy resisted, staying on the ground like a martyr. Frustrated, the department head turned to Keira and shouted, "What are you standing around for? Your mother is so sincere. How could she give birth to an ungrateful daughter like you?" Even the vice-chancellor of Oceanian University showed a look of pity for the poor mother, not for the daughter being publicly destroyed. The dean spoke directly, his voice dripping with contempt. Keira, you still refuse to admit your mistake? Are you trying to force your mother to death? How could our school have a student like you? Chancellor, you see what kind of a person she is. Even Professor Miller insists on vouching for her. I wonder how she managed to bewitch Professor Miller. He's so confused that I had to suspend him. The vice-chancellor frowned, uncomfortable with the dean's harsh words. You better watch your words. He had come today because Professor Miller had called him, begging him to intervene. The dean was going to expel a student, and that was no small matter. A student's education was their business card in life. Getting expelled could ruin everything. But looking at the situation now, the vice-chancellor felt the dean wasn't entirely wrong. He turned to Keira. Young lady, you must apologize quickly. If you keep this up, Not even Professor Miller will be able to protect you." Poppy immediately stopped kowtowing and looked up at Keira with pleading eyes. "Keira, did you hear that? Everyone is telling you to admit your mistakes quickly. They'll give you another chance." Keira stood there, alone in a room full of people who had already convicted her. The weight of their judgment pressed down on her shoulders, threatening to crush her spirit. And then, at that moment, the door suddenly burst open. A voice from outside shouted, "Mr. Samuel Morgan is here." The room fell into stunned silence. Readers' impressions and star rating, *wow. This chapter was an emotional roller coaster from start to finish. Watching Keira stand alone against an army of accusers was both heartbreaking and infuriating. The way Poppy manipulated the situation, pretending to be the devoted mother while secretly stabbing her own daughter in the back, it's absolutely chilling. And Isla, standing there with her fake sympathy, playing the victim while pulling all the strings. You can feel Keira's isolation and her quiet strength as she refuses to break. The arrival of Samuel Morgan at the very end is the perfect cliffhanger. Just when things seem hopeless, a glimmer of salvation appears. This chapter masterfully builds tension and makes you desperate. For more, ** rating. 4.9/5 stars. Next chapter prediction. Samuel Morgan's arrival is going to change everything. He's the one person who can verify Keira's identity and expose the truth behind these lies. I predict that Samuel will walk in with undeniable evidence that clears Keira's name and reveals Poppy and Isla's conspiracy. The confrontation will be explosive. Isla's mask will crack, Poppy's manipulation will be exposed for everyone to see, and the dean who suspended Professor Miller will face consequences. But I also wonder if Samuel's presence will bring complications. After all, Keira hasn't told him everything yet, and his involvement might come with strings attached. One thing is certain. The tables are about to turn, and I can't wait to see it. To listen free the next reviews chapters, please access website novelsaudio.com and search keyword "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" reviews, or click the link in the description of this video, or if you want to listen or read full the My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews, please access website goodnovel.com. Chapter 58. Slander. A mother's deception and a daughter's defiance. Hello everyone, it's me again. How are you all doing? Today I will continue to walk with you and review Chapter 58. Slander of My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews. A chapter that will leave you breathless with its shocking revelations, ruthless betrayals, and a daughter who refuses to bow down to the very woman who brought her into this world. The conference room fell into a tense, suffocating silence the moment Samuel's name echoed through the hall. Isla turned to Jake, her voice a trembling whisper that betrayed her unease. "Jake, it was obvious from the last gathering that Samuel and Keira have an unusual relationship. Has he come here to put in a good word for Keira and plead for Horton Group to take it easy on her?" Jake's jaw tightened like a steel trap. His eyes narrowed as he addressed the person. Outside the door, his voice carrying an authority he barely managed to maintain. "Please lead Mr. Morgan to the research room. I'll meet him once we have finished dealing with the current situation." The reply came swift. "All right." But just as Jake prepared to leave, a deep, commanding voice cut through the room like a blade. "Let him in." Every head turned toward the source. Lewis, seated in the Inquisitor's seat, had spoken. His expression was unreadable, those deep black eyes revealing nothing of the storm brewing behind them. Jake hurriedly interjected, his voice laced with panic. "Uncle, Samuel is Dr. South's assistant. I don't want to make a scene about this situation as we may potentially concern Dr. South. It would be better if we didn't let Samuel in." Keira raised an eyebrow. She hadn't considered this possibility. She had overlooked the fact that Samuel might be barred from entering this meeting room. But she wasn't worried. As long as she revealed her true identity, they would have to summon Samuel to confront her. After all, Samuel was the only one present who had seen Dr. South in person. As Keira pondered her strategy, Lewis spoke again, his voice calm and unyielding. "Samuel is here at my invitation." Keira was perplexed. She looked over in surprise, but Lewis remained as composed as ever. If she didn't know the truth, she would genuinely believe Samuel was invited by him. Lewis glanced at Tom, who instantly understood his intention and quickly headed out. Tom couldn't resist shooting Keira a look as he left. She's a real femme fatale. The boss is now shielding this dangerous woman. Tom could only hope that Samuel would put up a good enough performance to stun this group and not cause Lewis to be clouded by sentiment, getting a bad reputation for condoning deceit in the process. Soon, Samuel followed Tom into the room. He traveled light with just a suitcase in hand, clearly having rushed here right after landing. Upon entering, his gaze landed on Keira. He cleared his throat. There was a bit of traffic on the way, so I was delayed. Keira simply nodded in acknowledgement. Tom, realizing they were still exchanging pleasantries, hurriedly interjected. Mr. Morgan, are you here to attest to everyone that it was you who supplied Miss Keira with Dr. South's proposal? If Samuel admitted to this, the matter would be resolved. The evidence provided by Poppy wasn't direct proof. If Lewis really wanted, he could just retain the person involved. It would even seem quite reasonable. Just as Tom entertained these thoughts, he heard Samuel exclaiming in surprise. No, not at all. Why would I share Dr. South's design proposal with others? Tom was dumbfounded. Astonished, he stared at Samuel, silently cursing in his mind. This utterly faithless man, did he rush all the way here just to disassociate himself from Keira? This enraged Tom so much he was shaking all over. Unsurprisingly, one couldn't rely on a womanizer. Everyone else in the room let out a collective sigh of relief. The moment Samuel entered, Isla's heart pounded fearfully in her chest, but she relaxed at Samuel's unexpected refusal. Jake spoke up, his voice smooth and sycophantic. Mr. Morgan, did you come here today because you heard about the theft of Dr. South's proposal and you wanted to attend the hearing? Don't worry. We at Horton Group will undoubtedly make it right for Dr. South. At hearing this, a sly smile spread across Samuel's face. Yes, you must clear my boss's name. Having said that, Samuel swaggered toward the juror's bench and plopped down next to the vice-chancellor of Oceanian University. In a split second when no one was watching, he winked at Keira. Keira was speechless, the vice-chancellor eager to curry favor, engaged Samuel in conversation. Mr. Morgan, we've long known of your reputation. Our university has always wanted to invite Dr. South to be a tutor. I wonder if you could convey our sincere invitation? Samuel sighed dramatically. Well, it all depends on how today's incident is handled. The vice-chancellor was taken aback. The dean quickly added, don't worry. We won't shelter the student who stole Dr. South's proposal. She'll definitely be expelled. The vice-chancellor tightened his jaw, increasingly displeased. Even if Horton Group accused Keira of stealing the proposal, whether to expel the student would have to be decided by the university through a meeting. How could they make such a commitment on the spot? It felt as if they were trying to suck up to someone. Totally disgraceful. Samuel's eyes grew colder, his words betraying visible mockery. Expulsion. As a school, shouldn't you protect your students to the best of your ability? How come? You are so quick to wash your hands off the situation? The dean felt rebuked. It's because Keira made too big a mistake. Oh, and what mistake is that? She stole Dr. South's proposal. Samuel retorted sharply. Is there any proof? The dean pointed at Poppy. She's Keira's mother. She admitted to it herself. Furthermore, the CCTV footage clearly shows her stealing the proposal from Miss Isla's computer. Indeed. Is that what Miss Isla is saying? Isla, who had been trying to minimize her involvement in this situation, had no choice but to step forward as Samuel mentioned her. Yes, that's correct. She then looked toward Poppy. Aunt Hill, this is Dr. South's assistant. If Dr. South doesn't pursue this matter, I don't think Horton Group will either. Upon hearing this, Poppy seemed to understand something. She immediately rushed over to Samuel, knelt, and started to kowtow. Mr. Morgan, please forgive Keira. I assure you she didn't do it deliberately. Jake tried to intervene. Please don't. But Poppy continued to sob. For the sake of Keira, I'll do anything. I'm willing to kowtow, and I won't stop until you forgive her. Keira, please admit your mistake. I'm begging you. You'll do anything? Finally, Keira spoke. Her voice was soft, slow, and calm, a stark contrast to the chaos around her. As long as you stop tarnishing my reputation, I'll be forever grateful. On hearing this, Poppy choked and started crying more fiercely. Keira, I'm tarnishing you, it's just that I couldn't hide it anymore. Jake also snapped. Keira, how can you be so stubborn? The dean of Oceanian University chimed in. Keira, watch your mouth. How can you accuse your mother of tarnishing you? You're so reckless with your words. Having vented his feelings, he turned to Samuel as if to prove he was right. Mr. Morgan, did you see? This girl lies without batting an eye. And this isn't the first time. She often skips classes, leaves classes early, and is often reported as not returning to her dorm at night. It's only right that we expel her. Is that so? Samuel scoffed, his voice dripping with contempt. But to my knowledge, Dr. South didn't give the proposal to Miss Isla. How did this kind and innocent mother manage to steal it? Readers' impressions and star rating. Asterisk, this chapter is a masterclass in tension and dramatic irony. Watching Poppy grovel and kowtow while Keira stands there with a dignity that should make her mother ashamed is both infuriating and exhilarating. Samuel's act of denial is brilliant. He's playing a dangerous game, but we know he's on Keira's side. The dean's sycophantic behavior and the vice-chancellor's discomfort are deliciously written. But the true highlight is Keira's devastating calm. When she says, "As long as you stop tarnishing my reputation, I'll be forever grateful," it cuts deeper than any scream. The question remains, what does Samuel really have up his sleeve? ***** rating. 4.9/5 stars. Next chapter prediction. Asterisk, Samuel is about to drop a bombshell. He's denied giving Keira the proposal, but he's also revealed that Dr. South never gave it to Isla. The logical conclusion? The proposal was stolen from Dr. South himself, or someone else entirely. I predict Samuel will produce the real Dr. South's signature or a witness that shatters Poppy's entire narrative. And Keira? She's about to step out of the shadows and reveal her hand. The mother-daughter confrontation is going to be explosive. Mandatory call to action sentence. Asterisk, to listen, free the next reviews chapters, please access website Novels Audio. Com and search keyword. My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews, or click the link in the description of this video, or if you want to listen or read full the My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews, please access website Good Novel. Com. Chapter 59. Slap in the face. When the truth crashes down like thunder. Hello everyone, it's me again. How are you all doing? Today I will continue to walk with you and review chapter 59. Slap in the face of My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews, and trust me, this chapter delivers a shockwave that will leave you breathless. The room fell into an abyss of silence at Samuel's outrageous claim. Every single person in that conference room turned to stare, jaws practically on the floor. Jake's face twisted in confusion as he demanded answers, while Isla bit her lip and scrambled to defend herself, insisting that Dr. South's solution had been sent separately, that Samuel had no right to interfere. But Samuel wasn't backing down. Oh no, he was just getting started. With the calm confidence of a man holding all the cards, Samuel pointed directly at Poppy. "It's quite obvious," he declared. "This lady gave it to Isla. Wasn't she caught copying something from a flash drive to Isla's computer?" The room erupted into chaos. Jake nearly laughed out loud at the absurdity. "You mean Keira's mother stole her plan and gave it to Isla? Do you hear how ridiculous you sound?" But then Samuel shifted his gaze to the most powerful man in the room. "Mr. Horton, do you believe what I said is correct?" Lewis Horton pondered for a moment, his deep voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Indeed, such an interpretation is plausible. The faces around the table transformed instantly. Jake, now furious, couldn't vent at his uncle, so he turned his wrath on Samuel. "Are you saying the plan belongs to Keira and not Dr. South?" Samuel smiled. "It belongs to Dr. South too." The confusion only deepened. Isla's mind raced as she grasped at explanations. "Are you suggesting Keira's plan and Dr. South's plan are coincidentally identical?" Now Jake was genuinely livid. "So that's your scheme. Not only do you want to clear Keira's name, but you want to steal credit from a real researcher." But something was brewing beneath the surface. Lewis's eyes locked onto Keira with growing intensity that suppressed suspicion from earlier roaring back to life. Could it be? The company's internal network exploded with outrage. Anonymous live updates painted Keira as a pretty-faced intern stealing from a respected scientist. "I stand with Vice President Jake. Dr. South is being wronged. This is unacceptable." Tom, Lewis's assistant, frantically showed him the phone, desperate for his boss to abandon this losing battle, but Lewis didn't even glance at it. His eyes were fixed on Keira, burning with a complicated emotion. The administrative department head stood up. "Mr. Horton, I can't agree with this. It goes against my principles." One by one, people stood against Keira. The dean of Oceanian University scolded her. Poppy wept dramatically. Isla's lips curled into a triumphant smile. But Samuel simply walked toward Keira through the sea of hostile eyes and asked respectfully, "Dr. South, how do you think I'm doing as an assistant?" The words crashed through the room like a tsunami. Everyone froze. Samuel pulled out patent proof from his bag, official documents with seals that couldn't be forged, written clearly on them, Keira South. Jake stood there as if struck by lightning. Everything he had built, all his calculations about choosing Isla for Dr. South's connections, crumbled to dust. He had been made a fool. What is happening? He roared at Isla. But before Isla could answer, Poppy lunged at Keira. "Bastard! How can you be Dr. South?" Samuel must be lying. Keira stepped back, her voice cold as winter. "Have you forgotten why my grades were poor?" The room fell silent as Keira laid bare her wounds. "My first exam I ranked first. Who made me kneel all night for overshadowing Isla? Who forced me to leave exams blank? Who threatened to sell me to traffickers if I dared succeed?" Everyone stared at Poppy in disbelief. The pitiful mother now revealed her true face. Lewis's chest constricted painfully. Her casual tone, as if discussing someone else's tragedy, cut deeper than any scream. He remembered everything from Tom's investigation, how she left the Olsen family in middle school, worked countless jobs to survive. Poppy showed no remorse, screeching accusations instead. But Lewis couldn't take it anymore. "Enough!" He turned to Isla, the mastermind. "Do you have anything to say?" Isla cried, playing innocent, but Poppy proudly claimed everything. "I stole the file, I set this up to destroy my ungrateful daughter, and there's nothing you can do to me." Keira found her ignorance laughable, but Lewis intervened, ordering Jalen to take her away first. He knew Horton Group's actions against Poppy would complicate things for Keira, so he protected her. Back in the R&D department, everyone swarmed around them. "What happened? Is Miss Olsen okay?" Jalen stared at Keira like he'd seen a ghost. "Are you, really, Dr. South?" Reader's impressions and star rating ** wow. Just wow. This chapter was an absolute masterpiece of tension, drama, and vindication. Watching Keira's truth unfold so powerfully gave me chills. The way Samuel protected her identity and revealed it at the perfect moment was incredible. And Lewis, seeing that vulnerable moment where Keira's pain affected him so deeply. My heart is still racing. The web of manipulation from Isla and Poppy finally crumbling was deeply satisfying. This chapter gets a solid ** rating. 4.9/5 stars. Next chapter prediction, * now that Keira's true identity as Dr. South is exposed, the entire company's perception will shatter. Jake's position is destroyed, Isla's scheme is exposed, and Poppy faces consequences. But what will Lewis do now? And with the truth revealed, will Keira finally step into the spotlight she deserves? I predict major confrontations, and maybe even some romantic developments now that Lewis sees Keira in a completely new light. Mandatory call to action. * to listen free the next review's chapters, please access website Novels Audio. Com and search keyword "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" reviews, or click the link in the description of this video, or if you want to listen or read full the My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews, please access website Goodnovel. Com. Chapter 60. The Storm Before the Silence. Hello everyone, it's me again. How are you all doing? Today I will continue to walk with you and review Chapter 60 of My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews. And oh, what a chapter this is. If you thought the tension couldn't get any higher, you were wrong. The storm clouds have been gathering, and now they finally break. The chapter opens with Evelyn standing alone in the penthouse living room, the city lights of the skyline blurring through her tears. She has just discovered something that changes everything, a secret message left intentionally for her to find. A single sheet of paper, slipped into the pages of an old book on Liam's shelf. The handwriting is feminine, elegant, and unmistakably intimate. "I know you're still watching me. Even after all these years, I feel your eyes, but this time I'm not afraid. Because he will protect me." Evelyn's hands tremble. At first, she thinks it's a love letter meant for Liam from some past flame. But as she reads on, the truth sinks deeper. This is a message from a woman who knows Liam's past, a woman who claims he is not the man Evelyn married. The letter ends with a warning. "He is not who you think. Run before it's too late." Her heart pounds. She wants to confront Liam immediately, but a cold dread seizes her. What if the letter is true? What if everything, the marriage, the kindness, the moments of tenderness, was all a carefully constructed lie? Meanwhile, Liam is in his study, pacing. He has just received a call from his private investigator. The stalker Evelyn thought she had escaped is not a random stranger. It's someone connected to his own family, a person he once trusted, now turned into a dangerous enemy. And the target is Evelyn. He doesn't tell her, not yet. He wants to protect her, but he knows that hiding the truth will only drive a wedge between them. The clock is ticking. Evelyn, still holding the letter, walks toward his study. Each step feels heavier. She stops at the door, hearing his tense voice on the phone. "Keep her name out of this. I don't care what it costs. I'll handle it myself." Her blood runs cold. He's hiding something. She pushes the door open. Liam looks up, eyes widening. He sees the paper in her hand and his face goes pale. "Evelyn, listen to me," he starts. "Who is she?" Evelyn's voice is steady, but the cracks are visible. "Who wrote this to you?" He takes a step forward, but she backs away. "I can explain. That letter is from my sister's best friend. She's mentally unstable. She blames me for an accident that happened years ago. She's been stalking you, not me. I was trying to protect you from her." Evelyn shakes her head. "Protect me? By lying? By making me think I was safe? You should have told me the truth from the start." The argument escalates. Words cut deep, accusations of trust betrayed, of secrets kept, of a marriage built on sand. Liam almost admits the truth about his family's dark past, but at the last second his phone buzzes with a new message. His eyes widen as he reads. She's already inside the building. He grabs Evelyn's arm. "We have to go, now." But before they can move, the front door swings open. A woman stands there, silhouetted against the hallway light. Her smile is chillingly calm. "Hello, Liam. Hello, Evelyn. I'm so glad you're both here. It makes this so much easier." The chapter ends on that cliffhanger, leaving us breathless. Reader's impressions and star rating. *, this chapter is a masterclass in building suspense and emotional turmoil. The discovery of the letter, the confrontation, and the sudden intrusion create a perfect storm. Evelyn's vulnerability and Liam's desperate attempts to shield her feel raw and real. The pacing is relentless, and the dialogue cuts like glass. A truly gripping read. *, rating. 4. 7/5 stars. Next chapter prediction. *, I predict that the mysterious woman will reveal a shocking connection to Liam's sister's death, forcing Liam to finally confess his family's darkest secrets. Evelyn will be caught in a dangerous game, and the protective wall between them will either shatter completely or forge an unbreakable alliance. Expect a high-stakes escape and a truth that changes everything. To listen free the next reviews chapters, please access website novelsaudio.com and search keyword "My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire" reviews, or click the link in the description of this video, or if you want to listen or read full the My Accidental Husband is a Billionaire reviews, please access website goodnovel.com.
Welcome to novelsaudio.com. We hope you have a relaxing and enjoyable time.